Yerp, it's Perp. Welcome to my Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 live discussion. Yes, we're going to be talking all things spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, yeah, come back and watch this and make sure you hit the like button, share this out. I got some guests with me in the back. Uh, what up,
Hey,
Zai?
what's up?
What's good? What's good? Just chilling.
What's up? Good to
Got
be on here.
yeah, got a little bit of a headache, but we're gonna make it work. I was trying to get rid of this shit. I was like, yo, that shit popped up at like 6 o'clock. I was like, bro, this shit gotta go like in 3 hours. But just one of those days, I guess.
Well, you threw me off because you said 9 p.m., but I forgot that is Eastern, so Central Time is about an hour behind for me. So I was like, oh, that's 8.
Mm-mm. LB was in the back, but I guess he's gonna come back. Um, yeah, we got some more people coming in, and we'll see when they're gonna pop up and whatnot. But let me see. Here's Rashad. What up?
Yo, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, yeah, man.
All right. What's good, y'all?
Yeah, just chilling, just chilling. How many times you watched the movie so far? You just watched it once?
Talking to me?
Yeah,
Yeah, I only watched it once, yeah, so far.
regular, no Dolby or IMAX or anything like
Oh, Dolby, bro, I'm spoiled. I gotta watch everything in
that.
Dolby now. Yeah.
Yeah, I just watched it in Dolby today. That's my second time. It's LB. What up, LB?
Hello, hello, hello.
I just did the normal stuff because I was like, you know, I actually, to be honest, saw it today because I've been super busy. So uh, I got that fresh out of the theater experience. So
Hmm.
I'm super excited to talk about it because, my God,
Yeah,
the
it's crazy.
Hmm.
bro, the feelings, the emotions. Like I came out going, I get it now. That essential bit that's missing for Marvel.
Right, right. LB, what did you watch this in like the regular format, or did you check it in IMAX or Dolby?
No, I saw it at regular theater because where I was at, they don't have IMAX right now.
Oh, true, true. Do you do A list, or you just go and buy random tickets?
Nah, I mean, I just buy tickets. I don't go to movies that much to be paying for that service.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. It's still good. It's still comes in handy, especially like with like months like June, because June's gonna be packed. So
But I ain't big money like you, dog.
Nah, listen, yo, it's like $24 now, and what, three movies a week?
Exactly, exactly. Folks out here struggling, bruh.
Hey, listen,
nah,
I'm on the same boat.
nah, I feel you though. Like you don't really see that many movies, that many within the months and stuff. Like yeah. Just wanted to kind of get our first initial thoughts as we wait for other people to come in and whatnot.
Wait a minute, what the
Um,
hell? How many times till Wakanda Forever gets mentioned? Seriously?
who said that?
Chat,
Wrong
that's
stream.
yeah, that's on his LB's title.
No,
Yeah.
no, that's good. That's funny.
I don't know who's showing up, so I just put that in there.
Listen, I try to forget that movie, so you're not gonna hear
See,
me
there you
mention it.
go, there you go. It took 6 minutes.
Hey
Mm,
man, it is what it is. It's a very forgettable movie.
yeah.
But we in phase five, in a whole new phase. It's a whole new year. You know what I'm saying? Fresh slate. And to me, I feel like phase five is starting all right so far. So far, you know what I'm saying? Um, but so what are your first initial, thoughts going in about the movie?
All right, so everybody who does know me, I've hated everything in Phase 4, and pretty much every fucking movie that's come out, show, anything, I've hated. I did not like Ant-Man and the Wasp. I thought there was a lot of useless bullshit, and honestly, Jonathan Majors held that whole thing together. So going into this, I said, James, if you shit the bed on this one, then DC is fucked. And James, I believed in you, and it paid off. Holy shit, Marvel, you made the stupidest decision in your life getting rid of that man, because, my God, the storytelling, the acting, I never thought CGI animals could make me like break down as a human. Like, here we are. It's like that is what Marvel's been missing, like the heart. Like, not just this stupid joke shit, but like letting moments have a chance to make you feel like shit. Like, and I don't mean to sound like cynical. I am a DC fan, so I guess we all get that rap of being depressed or whatever. But there's a difference when you're writing a story and you let people sit in that feeling of dread, so they have that something to look forward to. Like, they don't know what's going to happen next. And I think this movie achieved it, to where I felt like, damn, did we go back in time? Is this like Marvel phase like 1, 2, and 3? Like, there were stakes, there was danger. I thought people could legitimately die.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? Did I take a teleporting machine back to glory days? So
Yeah,
that's
it
about it.
yeah, it definitely does feel tonally different from things that we've been getting recently. But Rashad, how do you feel about it? Before going in the movie and now going at like after.
Well, I'll be honest, man. Like, I'm a MCU fan, but not lately. Like Zod said, Phase 4 has been weak. You know, Phase 5, I'm not. I haven't been impressed so far. The last MCU movie that I watched that really was seriously dope was No Way Home. You know what I'm saying? No Way Home and Endgame. That was it. Everything else after that's been mediocre at best. So coming into this, I was watching it like almost out of obligation, not because I was excited to go see, but because, okay, I have this much time invested. Let me just go get this over with. And I was surprised when I walked out how I was in my feelings. I was entertained. You know what I'm saying? Yo, I was
Oh,
a
man,
water
me
bag.
too.
I was a water bag, man, by the end. And listen, I have a fear of raccoons, bro. Like, I live here in Florida, right? So, yeah, raccoons are regular down here, and I hate them. Like, I run my big ass from a raccoon quick, and
Those are
those little, huh?
those are Zod sources.
Yeah, man. You see how my sources be getting treated. Like, I'm gonna have to start some humanitarian efforts.
Nah, I
I'm
hate
not doing enough
raccoons.
for the raccoon
I'm
community.
afraid of them. But those little baby raccoons, man. Then with Rocket, I said, yeah, you know, Marvel is back on course. Now I'm not going to say this is like top tier yet. You know what I'm saying? But it is putting Marvel back on course where it needs to be, and I'm excited from here on. Well, I'm actually not excited from here on out because we still got the Marvels coming up. I'm not looking forward to that at all.
You
Okay,
got Secret Invasions is next.
Okay.
I'm-
Okay,
Okay.
but overall, I dug it. I thought it
Okay.
was good. Yeah.
Okay. BG, you in here?
Yeah, what's up? What's up? What's up, everybody?
It's
What up,
good.
bro? How'd you
Zod,
feel about
LB.
the movie, like going in and now coming out of the movie?
Going in, I think Zod pretty much wrapped up the general consensus, but I think going into it, I actually had decent expectations. I didn't have low expectations for this movie because when I looked at it, I said, well, this is probably the last Infinity Saga movie that we're going to get based on Infinity Saga characters as we know them and everything like that. So I did have a bit of an expectation that this movie should be good. And then coming out of the movie, like Zai said, you see that what Marvel is missing. This movie has every single thing that Marvel has been missing since Phase 4 got started. I mean, the heart, the graphics, the storytelling. You know, you can't help but to get emotional and realize how much you actually care about these characters and their journey that you've watched them on over the past few years. So I walked in with some, mid to high expectations, and I walked out very emotional because that's the type of movie it was.
Okay. Okay. LB, how about you?
It was okay. Like
Mhm.
I didn't feel any of these things that you all are saying. To me, the most emotional part of the movie were the animals, like that Rocket was hanging out with for those years. So to me, if that is the most emotional part of the movie, there's problems with the movie. But I mean, I liked it. I mean, I enjoyed it. Like I feel like it was tugging at the nostalgia bone, like No Way Home did. I feel like there's some revisionist history going on with the MCU based off what I'm hearing tonight on this panel. But yeah, I mean, it's an improvement from Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Like the bad parts of Volume 2, I felt like they did a whole lot better. I was more impressed in this movie with the cinematography and stuff like that, more so than what was happening in the movie, because I didn't have any major gripes with the movie. Like, I could just destroy this movie if I'm having a discussion, but I will say that this movie, like, throughout the movie, I'm sitting there wondering, like, why are they basically making a movie with Rocket Raccoon's backstory? But then after, like, sitting there thinking about it for a couple of days, I was like, well, they did do Star Lord and Gamora's backstory and stuff. So, like, getting to know more about Rocket and then a little bit more into Drax and stuff like that. That was pretty cool. But yeah, I liked it. I wouldn't say it's the best Marvel movie in the past 3 years and one of the greatest movies of all time. Like, I'm not going to say all that stuff. But
it definitely is the best Marvel movie in the past 3 years.
I was about to say the past 2 years since
hold on. I didn't jump in when y'all were talking about the movie. Can I finish?
All right.
It was a solid Marvel movie. It was solid. Like, James Gunn went out on a good note, and he, atoned for his sins of Volume 2.
All right, K-Dot, I know you just hopped in. What were your expectations going and how you feel about it now?
I didn't really have no expectations. I mean, I just wanted it to be better than Guardians 2 because I absolutely thought that was a downgrade from 1. But 3 took everything from 2 that I didn't like, and it toned some things down that I wanted to be toned down, and it elevated things I wanted to be elevated. So, all in all, my little expectations was met, and I walked away liking the movie. I thought the jokes was very bland, but all of the serious stuff, which I thought there was a lot more seriousness to this story, really was done well. But them jokes was... Them jokes wasn't good. I did laugh at one. I did laugh at one joke. That ugly little white thing that Mantis saw. I laughed at that.
Man, I disagree. I'm gonna have to say the joke where he talks about that person that you're just kind of saddled with, but they're a little bit touched. When he was talking about, I only got him on my team because he's a friend of the guy I work for. I thought that shit was funny because we've all been at work and we know that guy who's just there because he's the boss's son.
And I'll say this, and this is not me trying to bash. This is not that at all. I was thoroughly shocked in my theater. Mind you, this was 4:45 in the afternoon. My whole theater was packed. It was so packed, I had to, I got stuck with a seat that I usually don't get. It wasn't a bad seat, but usually I get the good seats at a time. But it was packed. Nobody in my theater laughed. It was dead silent throughout the whole thing. Nobody clapped, which was
They was crying.
I didn't want. Nobody wasn't really crying either. Like when the stats, it was a silent theater. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I was like,
nah, you had a whack crowd. That's what it was.
Yeah, there was some clapping in my theater.
I'm not trying to. I was thoroughly shocked.
K-Dot. It was the same in my movie theater, and I'm thinking right now that you're mentioning it, compared to like the other two, like the first one was a complete like experience in the theater. Like people were laughing, people were singing to the songs. Volume 2, you had parts of there, and the third one in my theater it was quiet. Like people laughed here and there. Like I laughed out loud at one thing that Mantis said, but like I'm with you on that, K-Dot.
You know what? I hope you're because I did laugh at one thing that was not meant to be funny. But it was kind of loud, so some people heard it. I feel bad. I said it in the stream. It was when our boy got laid out in his little wheelchair. He looked like Peter Griffin on the ground.
Oh yeah.
Oh shit! Yeah. I remember. Yeah,
I think I laughed out loud when Mantis and had the whole stupid discussion with Drax. I don't remember the
yeah,
exact
that was
thing, but
pretty
I
funny.
think I it's one thing she
Yeah.
said, and I bust out laughing. I rarely do that at the movie theater.
And not that those two
I
had a
thought,
lot of good scenes together. Mantis and Drax, they got some good chemistry.
I thought the humor was pretty well balanced. Like they didn't go too overboard with it.
Yes, yes, I agree.
Yeah, it wasn't over the top like too. Because
Like,
to me, when I walked out of this movie, while none of the jokes really hit for me, it felt like the first two movies are like genuine comedies, superhero comedies. This one, it had jokes, but really look at it from the first act to the point where they leave to go on the mission to save Rocket. That whole first act is pretty serious. There's some jokes in
Yeah.
it, but the jokes work for the situation. They're, living in this new civilization on nowhere. They're just chilling. They're just relaxing. So there's going to be jokes and casual stuff going on. But
yeah,
that was a very serious like first act starting out.
yeah, and
Peter being
to add
alcoholic, all that.
to add on to that, like I said, improvements from Volume 2. We didn't have the overdone joke like Volume 2 with the crater face thing for the entire movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was
Oh,
funny.
there
That was
was
funny as shit.
there was an overdone joke.
but we had
Overdone thing.
we had the dog thing in the third one, but like it wasn't overbearing. You feel
Yeah,
me?
but I got sick of that good dog, bad dog shit. I was like, y'all got to do more with Cosmo. That's probably my biggest complaint. I know you'll probably ask that question later, Perp, but that whole Cosmo running the good dog, bad dog thing, they could have gave them for that much screen time and that much dialogue. They could have developed it more or something like that. That was just they just kept beating dead horse kind of midway through with that, in my opinion.
Because like Cosmo, they really didn't introduce her until like the Guardian special and stuff like that. That's what you get a little bit more, just a little bit.
You want to know what I think these movie studios need to start doing? They need to, if they're gonna do comedies, they need to just like do a test screening where they just let black people watch. If black people don't laugh at it, it's not a good comedy. I'm just saying.
That's funny. That's funny.
I'm not joking.
But,
Like
I want to get to the question. I wanted to get to this question from view with the Drew. He says this is a question for all of us. Who's our favorite member from the original Guardians? Zod.
Well, obviously, because I closely resemble this person, it's going to have to be the single most important member, Star-Lord, Peter Quill. Because, the team would fall apart without him.
Who told you that lie?
Pretty much without
they're
Star
both
Wars,
white,
Lord,
so yeah.
Yeah, I see the comparison there. Yeah.
without Star Lord's excellent planning and
Whoa,
brilliant.
whoa, whoa, no. It's without Rocket. Rocket really is like the mastermind. Even going back to the first one, like where he's just talking about, oh, I broke out of like 22 presidents, and he's sitting there. He's always come out with a plan on the fly and stuff. Like,
Okay, but would Rocket jump out of a huge ass window with no parachute? I don't think so.
well, he was also kind of like dead, I think almost dead. But Rashad, who's your favorite OG member?
Day one, Rocket. But Rocket's been my favorite from the jump. Him and Groot. So yeah, Quill has his moments, man. But ever since he did that stupid ass shit in Infinity War, like Quill's been on my shit list. When he hit Thanos when he almost had the gauntlet off. Ever since then, I ain't really fuck with Quill.
I do like Quill. That like I like Quill because he never he never really shows no fear. Like he don't really care about like the big scary villain and stuff like that. Like with High Evolutionary, he was talking his shit to him. But
he doesn't.
BG,
he
how
could
about?
He could be such a dumbass though, man. Like between him and Adam Warlock, I don't know. Sometimes who's dumber.
Oh, I can answer that one. That was. We'll get to my complaints.
Guru, how about you?
The OG members. That's does Nebula count as an OG member?
Yeah. No.
Nah.
Who?
No.
We're talking
Nebula?
the first movie. It's just
Nebula?
Gamora, Drax, Rocket Raccoon, Groot, and Star Lord are the OGs. Just the five of them.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Nebula is my favorite, but to focus on OGs, it'll probably be Peter.
Okay. All right, LB.
That's right. He knows.
I guess I'll say Gamora because Zoe Saldana looks great as a Green Woman.
Dude, I thought I was tripping, man. I'm like, yo, should I be
Bruh.
crushing on this green chick
Bruh.
right now?
Bruh, we can have these discussions about these kind of things, bruh, when we talk about fictional movies. Gamora's up there with the Little Mermaid, Pocahontas, Jasmine.
Word.
Hilarious.
Like fictional baddies, what you trying to say?
Well, K-Dot, what about you?
I'm gonna say Gamora. She's the only one I can like. She's the only one that's not completely the idiot of the team, so I'm gonna go with Gamora.
Well, would you say
I
this
mean-
version of Gamora or the version
The OG
that started with
2014 Gamora, the one we got the one we got since Guardians 1, not the new one.
Bruh,
the new one? She's kind of a douche.
She fell for Star-Lord, so she is an idiot.
I
also.
mean, but this is
True.
but even the one we got, even though she's not up to date with, well, you know, she's totally different one, but she is from the 2014 timeline when they first meet. She meets Star-Lord and stuff. So, you know, even the one we got in this movie, I was cool with her too. She was still pretty much the same as herself from Guardians 1. Nothing too different.
Well, she definitely showed that she was Thanos' daughter because she was ruthless. I said, yep, that's Thanos' baby, all right.
Yeah, it's interesting that we get to see that side of her. And whatnot. We got another bringing up Adam Warlock view with the Drew. He asked like, what do you guys think about Adam Warlock in this? For me personally, like I feel like after watching the second time, he definitely has potential, and I see what they're going for, and I can also see why if people are fans from the comics are going to absolutely hate this character. But you know, I want to kind of see where they go with it, and if he's going to play a part in the Avengers and stuff, because they missed that opportunity with Infinity War and whatnot. But Zada, what you think about Adam Warlock?
Bro, to put it in perspective, okay, Adam Warlock is one of my favorite comic characters on the Marvel side besides Captain America. And I don't think people understand, like, in the Marvel universe, Adam Warlock is pretty much the equivalent to Superman. And I was saying this because, bitch, you went to see Guardians with me. And they nerf him so hard and make him such an idiot. It by far... No, I don't care what Marvel came up with. Oh, they took him out of the pod too early, so now he's a dumbass. No, he is an evolved, higher being. He is so powerful that he's kind of like Dr. Manhattan, where he doesn't look at things from a normal objective. Like when they had the Infinity War saga, he only intervened when it was like going to destroy the universe, and pretty much at the last freaking minute, because he saw the whole thing as petty and beneath him. He is pretty much God tier in the Marvel universe. And no, I'm sorry, that was an atrocity. It was an abomination to that. It was wholesale character assassination. I've seen so many characters introduced well, and you're telling me the best way you can introduce him is being a complete idiot. Like when he first dropped in, I go, oh, all right, it's going to be real. Like he's got his power. He beat the crap out of everyone. Cool deal. And then as it went on, I'm like, oh God, nope. This is how they're gonna nerf him. They're gonna say he's pretty much a moron. That's gonna be his whole character. And then he does nothing. Absolutely, virtually nothing till the very end. Not a thing. He's got, you could probably count the number of screen time he has on one hand. Because he's too powerful. So they just benched him. It was atrocious. I hated it, and that's my one gripe with the movie.
Okay. Rashad?
Yeah, I'm not the biggest Adam Warlock fan, and I don't know a whole lot about him. But as I was watching it, I was thinking the diehard fans of this character are going to be pissed off because they did make him a buffoon. Now, when he first came on the scene, I thought that was a dream sequence because he came and bodied everybody. I was like, holy shit.
Everybody,
like, this how we start the movie?
Everybody about to go to sleep, and like Rocket just gets like thrown out of his room and shit. Like that was crazy.
Yeah, like he bodied Rocket. He beat Drax almost to death. I thought Drax was dead. Like he killed everybody, and then he ends up being just an idiot. And I'm like, okay, this is the thing that Marvel does, where they take strong male characters and they have to like make them mentally incompetent. You know, like you look like from the Hulk, even though the Hulk is kind of a dumb character, but Hulk is like, you know, he's still Hulk. They cut his nuts off. You know, Drax the Destroyer in the comics, Drax is no joke. They made Drax kind of, you know, a mentally incompetent person. You know, Red Guardian, another one. So every time you have like an alpha type character that's like strong as fuck, they always make him stupid for some reason. And so yeah, I didn't like that part about it, like how they just made him so stupid. But as far as abilities, oh, he has potential now. So hopefully they give him an arc where he fucks, you know, he wrecks shit in the future. But this movie, I wasn't impressed with him.
All right. BG.
You know, it didn't bother me. It wasn't his movie. He wasn't featured in any way. He's definitely a dwarf from his comic book self, from what I understand, and from what I read in the Infinity War, the comic book version. But he was a side character at best in this film, and they treated him like that. And I didn't have a problem with it. I think they focused more on the High Evolutionary. They focused more on Rocket's backstory, things of that nature, which is actually what the movie is about. So they had Adam Warlock in it. I think if they didn't show Adam Warlock at the end of Guardians 2, he wouldn't even have been in this movie because he almost doesn't fit. So they kind of had to fit a character in that they probably didn't really need. And in that regard, I think they did a decent job kind of just getting him in there. But fundamentally, I mean, he was there, but he wasn't there. And I didn't really pay much attention to him. So.
Okay. LB.
So I was watching this and I was like, yeah, I'm willing to bet people who are fan of the comic book character are going to absolutely despise this character. Because like Rashad mentioned, it's another character that's introduced that they make look like a threat, and then everything else about them is a joke. I mean, it didn't bother me, but it's just like I wish they would stop doing this. And also, but at the same time, he fits, like him being an idiot fits in within the scope of the Guardians of the Galaxy team. So, you know, I didn't have a major problem with it, but it's just like I just wish they would move on from that trope that they're doing.
Okay. That's fair. K-Dot, how about you?
I mean, I know for the most part what Adam Warlock is supposed to be. I understand this was like his little origin moment, but they could have done a little bit better with this. Like prime example, the whole he's fresh out the pod, he's a baby and stuff. Like he been in that pod since 2014. How long does it need to take for him to, you know, not 2014 our time, but 2014 in the MCU timeline?
2017.
Now it was Guardians 2 was in 2014, right? Well, no,
That was the
2017.
first.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, it's 2017, and then it's like what 2025 in the MCU timeline now,
Something like that. Yeah.
Like I think he's been in the pod long enough to where he shouldn't be a dum-dum, but you know, he's or whatever. But yeah, this is just one of my many other issues with the MCU and how they handle their power scaling, especially for the powerful characters. That's why I say if you don't know how to do them, just leave them alone, because you know Adam Warlock is supposed to be that powerhouse, but you have to utilize him in a better way, and this was not it. If you have to, they did the same thing with Thor in the movies. They made him even more dumbs to find a way to, you know, make him balance out with his powers so he's not completely OP as he should be.
Oh yeah, Thor is a perfect example. Completely made him an idiot so he could appeal to more people.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Will Poulter didn't. There's definitely room for growth, but you know, just not these trainers though. You know, fresh up.
That's his name. I thought that was Harry Styles.
Because at the at the little post credit scene, like you see him being really serious. So like I feel like that's like a kind of a teaser, or where we're gonna get more of a serious Adam in the future and stuff like that. Like,
well, I'm scared. I'm scared of a more serious Adam because what he did in the beginning, I said, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, when he came out the gate in the beginning, that was fire. Like when he smacked, but I think the way they did introduce Adam in general in the MCU, I was not a huge fan of because you take away him being part of the Soul Stone. We know the Infinity Stones are destroyed, but I really feel like his first appearance should have been Infinity War being associated with the Soul Stone.
I agree.
And from there you can, because he doesn't got to be a reoccurring character. He can be one of those characters that pop up for like the big events. But I feel like they're trying to turn Adam into that reoccurring character that we constantly need to see, like Captain America, Iron Man, all of them. But I don't think he's the character that needs to keep being that a reoccurring thing that we gotta keep seeing.
Y'all think that with the whole Disney firing James Gunn at that time, that kind of messed up he probably had more big. He probably had a different kind of plan for Adam Warlock, and that kind of,
I mean, I think with this whole, in general, with the whole 5-year time jump, I think they just completely jumped the gun with that whole thing. It's not saying it was bad. It was good for the plot, the story that they was doing. But looking at it in the long run, like I said with Adam Warlock, he been in that pod since 2017, and it's 2025, and he was still how long did he need to be in that pod to be fully good to go? And that
that's a good point.
5 years. It's like, come on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anzo. What up, Anzo?
What's good, Anzo?
What up, guys?
Yo, are you wearing a white hood, bruh?
It's just a picture, man. It's just a picture.
Oh, I was about to say.
But Anzo, how'd you feel about Adam Warlock?
I mean, for the beginning of the movie, I thought he was all right. I think if you take him out of the movie, like, he doesn't really need to be there. But when he first came in, I was like, oh, that's badass. So then they kind of made him kind of goofy, but I thought he was all right. I didn't have really that much of an issue with him. I didn't hate him.
Okay. So I guess we can shift things over to Rocket, because this is pretty much his movie. With them trying to save him, and as they're trying to bring him back to life, we have flashbacks of his backstory and stuff, and I thought that was really, really well done. It was really effective. Because they've been teasing that since the first Guardians, you know what I'm saying? Like, where he's fighting with Drax at the what is it, like a casino or some shit like that?
Mm-hmm.
And getting little teasers here and there, and why he never really opened up to nobody and never told anybody like his whole backstory. So how'd you feel about Rocket's whole backstory and how they handled his character in this movie?
Bro, I love rabbits, as everybody knows who knows my channel. And I'm pretty partial to animals myself. So they knew the exact right buttons here, because that whole thing was soul crushing to where I was like, you know what? Rocket deserves to be a dick. Let that man be an asshole, because if anybody on that team has a reason to be cranky and hate everybody, my goodness. And like, I've heard these stupid reviews saying, oh, it was so sad and depressing. Well, we kind of figured it was coming when he lifted his shirts and you seen the enhancements, and you're like, man, that does not look like it was pleasant. And when he was explaining it, I can't remember in which movie, but like, to me, out of every Guardian, I think, besides maybe Peter, because the whole losing a family member thing to cancer is kind of personal to me, but besides that, I would say they have the two most tragic stories of the team. And that end got me, like, when they were reviving him, like, damn, man, that shit was rough. It was just like soul crushing.
So
Great
Chris Pratt was acting his ass off in that moment.
So your father, so a man stealing you from your family and forcing you to become a murderer isn't the most tragic story?
I mean, I'd say they're tied, man. I'm gonna call it a tie here.
Or how about your dad killing you? throwing you off a ledge so he can
Oh,
achieve
that, yeah.
his ultimate power.
He steals you from your
Oh man,
family.
that
Hold on,
was a different timeline.
right? He steals you from your family. He forces you to be a murderer, and then he kills you.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I know
I'm
what
just
you
saying,
meant,
I love
though.
animals.
Yeah.
And those are my sources. I got raccoon sources, man. I always say it hard.
Ugh. God, I hate raccoons.
How about you, Rashad? How'd you feel about how they handled Rocket?
Yeah, I thought they did a great job, man. Like his story was very tragic, very heartbreaking. Yeah, kind of went to a dark place, which is different from Marvel because Marvel doesn't get dark very often. So the fact that they went there and actually like showing like all the shit they did to him, I was like, damn. I mean, like I said, I don't like raccoons, man, but I wanted to hug that one because that was messed up what they did to him.
Yeah, when
Man.
he had the little raccoon, he's like, "Oh, it hurts." I was like, "Oh man."
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you see, like they cut the top of his head and everything, and like
Yeah.
they just mangled him, man. I'm like, damn, like Great Value RoboCop. What did you do to him? I forgot what's his name again. The guy, the black RoboCop looking dude.
High evolutionary.
There you go. That motherfucker always screaming and shit.
Well, I can't wait to talk about him.
We'll get to that.
Man, yeah. I like how they handled the Rocket though.
Okay. BG, how about you?
Well, I loved Rocket in this movie for a couple of reasons. One, his backstory is so interesting, and to see why he becomes who he becomes. After he whoops the High Evolutionary's ass, and then he picks up the gun and starts shooting, the people coming in there. You see why he's like this trigger happy raccoon because this rage that's within him. So I absolutely love that. That was actually one of my favorite parts of the movie. And then the other thing about Rocket that I liked is that how his when he was kind of in a coma situation and he was dying, how they allowed that to drive the action in the movie. So it's like, we gotta save Rocket. I don't give a damn what's going on, who we gotta go against, and how we gotta do it. We gotta save Rocket. And that drove a lot of character development between the different characters. Even Gamora started to come around once she started to realize, like, hey, these people really care about you a lot. They'll go through all of this just for you. So when he was still affecting the story, not only in his background, but also while he was lying there in a coma, he was affecting the action very well in that way. So that's a credit to James Gunn and how he wrote those first two acts when he was in a coma. So that way he can still drive the story in that way. So I think how they did Rocket in this movie was absolutely fantastic.
Hey, can I say something real quick though? Like,
Yeah, go ahead.
anybody, am I tripping or did I not feel the connection between Rocket and Groot in this movie? It seemed like when Rocket got hurt, Quill had that ugly ass cry, like, Rocket, no, and I'm like, that should have been Groot doing that, cried, I am Groot. Like,
But he was still by his side, though. He was still by his
He was by
side.
his side, but like the whole time, it felt like Groot.
I
It felt
agree
like
with
Groot
Rashad
took a
on that.
back seat. Yeah, it felt like Groot took a back seat, and there was really no. I don't remember any scenes with him and Rocket together through the whole movie, unless I'm tripping.
They had a little scene where they were in the hallway fight scene.
Yeah, in the fight scene.
Yeah,
right.
he jumps on
Okay.
Groot and starts shooting
Okay.
and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I
'cause-
agree with you. Groot
Yeah.
should have been more upset because I watched the first one, and when Groot dies, like Rocket is sitting there crying. You know what I mean? So I think Groot should have been kind of the same way. So I agree with you on that.
Do trees have tears? Do they
Yeah.
produce tears?
Yeah, he
Or he
threw
would
up-
have sap. He should have sap or some shit.
Hold on,
Remember,
but
remember he was a baby. He puked up that green baby puke, whatever the shit came out of him, that
That's
sap
nasty.
or whatever.
But wasn't Groot the first one to fight Adam Warlock? So
Oh, yeah.
Was he?
yeah, he was the
Yeah,
first
he
one
was.
to jump on
Yeah.
Warlock.
Yeah.
As soon as like Warlock came in, hit a Rocket, and then boom, Groot was the first one on his ass.
And then he
Yeah.
tore his head off.
Mhm.
That was crazy.
Yeah,
He was the walk ahead.
I'm just saying. I didn't feel it because Groot and Rocket had that father-son type deal going on. I didn't feel that in this movie. It felt like Groot was kind of like doing his own thing.
True.
Oh, just to add on to Rashad real quick, since he mentioned Groot and Rocket, I wish they showed how Rocket met Groot in this movie.
Yeah.
They should.
Did they say like that? Like James wanted to do something like that. He wanted to do like a little. Like, I was seeing somewhere he wanted to do like a Rocket and Groot movie thing, whatever, kind of like the holiday special. But
I'd watch that. Yeah, 'cause I want to see that.
But LB, how'd you feel about Rocket's character in this movie?
Yeah, like I said earlier, like throughout the movie, I was just like, why are we doing this? But like I said, after the movie and think about it, it made sense. But it was fine. I enjoyed his interactions with the animals, and like I don't care about animals. I'm sorry, animal people. I don't care about them. It's whatever with them. They live, they live. They die, they die. But
Damn.
I
Wow.
felt them, and it's like I'm sitting there watching it. I'm like, man, why couldn't they have done this with their live action Lion King movie? Like, I'm like, man, like, and when they got killed, bruh, I was like, no. I knew they were gonna die, but like I was like, no, man, why, bruh? Like,
It was
why,
tragic.
bruh? Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just add on to LB's point, because Bitchy brought up something great. I want to hand it to the people who cut that trailer, because the way they splice it, they don't show you what happens at the end of that scene when they hug. So it looks like everybody's going to escape, and Bitchy brought this up. And then you see that moment where the bullet just goes through, and you're like, oh, goddamn, man. Like,
Actually,
they do that. They killed them.
I agree with that, because I was thinking the movie was going to be about Rocket going to go save Lila Teefs, and
Yeah,
I thought it was that.
me too.
Teef got laid out.
No.
Well, go ahead. Continue, LB.
They hugged. I was like, shit. I don't remember seeing them in the trailer anymore.
Man, tonight's the night when everybody wants to jump in on my thoughts.
This is why I don't love anything.
Wow, she put you out there, Zod. She don't love you. No, but I mean that's it, man. Like I said, man, after seeing the movie and thinking more about it, I liked it more, and it was cool. Who mentioned Groot? Was it you, Rashad?
Yeah.
Now that you mentioned that, and I'm thinking about that, I would have liked to see more of the emotional connection from Groot and Rocket, because they were the closest from the beginning.
Right.
So that would have been. But I know how they do. They gotta make the guy the star. What's his name? Chris Pratt, and like how they did with Tony Stark and stuff, inserting him into things that he wasn't really inserted into. So yeah, it is.
Okay.
Agreed.
What about you, Dot?
As far as Rocket, I mean, he never been one of my favorite characters, but I did like how his story has been told throughout this whole thing, from Guardians 1 to 3. It all came full circle. Yeah, I liked Rocket's story. I felt bad for him. I felt bad for his homie Teefs that got laid out. I felt bad for Floyd. I was kind of happy when Floyd got. That Floyd deserved it, over there talking and stuff and being loud.
Nah, man, Floyd was cool, bro. Floyd was
See,
Floyd was a liability, because if they wasn't on that stage, he was like, "Hey, we're gonna go play." Like, shut up, y'all trying to escape. That's the reason they got caught, because the High Evolutionary he heard her. Like, what's that rabbit talking about?
That rabbit looked terrifying though. That shit got like the metal mouth and stuff like that. I was like, they did a number on that rabbit.
That's something out of nightmares right there, yo.
Well, let me say this, because and it pertains to Rocket and his friends. I think what would have been interesting was if the High Evolutionary took Rocket's friends, mutated their bodies, and made them like the
like a Megazord.
No. Made them like the other mutants, the other failed mutations,
like the pig,
chicken hawk thing. The chicken hawk thing.
Oh yeah, that shit was like, I didn't know what the hell that was. So
I think it would have added more for Rocket going in there to fight the High Evolutionary, and he has to fight his old friends that have been mutated into, these things.
I think him seeing his friends die like that in front of his face was a little bit more effective. But I see what you mean.
Not saying what they did wasn't effective, but just to add more onto it, just to make it even worse.
So how'd you feel about Rocket? in this movie.
I think Rocket's backstory was actually the best part of this movie. That was the part where it got the most emotions, and I'm like Zod on that table scene where Peter Quill was like, "No, I'm not letting him go." I teared up. I teared up, bro, because my mom and my dad both died of cancer. I was on their deathbed, so it brought back a lot of memories. You know what I mean? Like you just think about it, and when he was like, "No, I'm not letting him go. I'm not letting him go." I had that same kind of reaction in my situation. You know what I mean? So it was the best part of the movie for me, like watching that rocket scene and everything that he went through. I thought it was great the way, because when you watch the first one, there's one scene where he's crying and he's drunk and he's talking about, I didn't want to be like this and I didn't want to be
Yeah.
ripped apart and all kinds of stuff. And then we get to see that in this movie. It was good. I thought he was absolutely amazing. Best part of the
Okay.
movie.
Okay. So let's get right into the big bad of this. Because a lot of mostly I see a lot of people saying he's his top 5 MCU
Man,
villain.
bruh,
Get the fuck out of here.
bruh.
He's the goat,
Hold on, hold
bruh.
on. Did they make a subcategory? The top 5 black villains in the MCU or something?
No, but we'll get into it though. My thoughts on it. I think the High Evolutionary. He was a solid villain, very straightforward. My only thing is I wouldn't necessarily put him in the top 5 because the way he got washed by the Guardians, like literally, like as soon as he stepped in that room and she just got blasted by Rocket. Well, not instantly, but once he got blasted by Rocket, Groot came in next, and then Peter and all them, and just they was whooping his ass, bro. Like I've never seen nobody get their ass whooped like that.
Hey, it was a
But
good
I think he was solid for what he was going for. Very menacing. A little babyish too. Like he felt like undermined by like Rocket. Like why are you smarter than me? How did you figure this out? Type shit. But overall, I thought he was a pretty solid villain. Saad, how do you feel about him?
I'm torn because on the one hand, seeing all of the just god awful villains that have been spawned in this phase, he looks like an Academy Award winning villain. But if you even go back to the most generic Ultron kind of villain and compared to him, the problem with the High Evolutionary is there's no depth to his character. He's kind of he's a one note, like he is bad because people don't like.
Hey, woman.
He's he's kind of one note because he has one simplistic goal. Like if you look at Killmonger, I would argue is one of my favorite characters the MCU ever produced. He had more layers to him because he had a way of carrying out his plans. He had deeper goals, and his motives made sense in the grand scheme of things. Whereas High Evolutionary is kind of really basic. He just wants to change the world and make it better, and the God complex. There's nothing really to him besides that. And then when he starts losing, they do the default Marvel villain thing they do where they think that a screaming villain is powerful, but it's just annoying. Like at the end of the movie, he just started annoying me with that. It's like, okay, I get it, he's angry, but you can do menacing without having your villain scream across the freaking port at people. That's not scary. That's just annoying. So I think there was potential, but there were so many other characters they were focusing on that they really didn't focus on him. Like, we don't know why he's doing what he's doing. We don't know why his face is stretched out. We don't know what his hopes and dreams are.
Well, his face was stretched out because of Rocket. Rocket fucked up his face when he escaped.
But I mean, it's just he's just very surface level. There's nothing to him. There's nothing that makes him pop out. So he'll be one of them villains where I'll be like, all right, he was cool for the movie, but I'll forget about him. Honestly, he's just gonna fall into the catalog of other villains we've seen 1,000 times in these movies.
Okay. Rashad, how'd you feel about the High Evolutionary as the big bad?
He reminded me of an 80s, 80s wrestling where when they did promos, they was yelling all the time. Like there was many moments in the movie I said, bro, why are you yelling? Like, why are you always yelling, man? You know, like Zod said, you can get your point across and be menacing without always shouting like a kid throwing a temper tantrum. You know what I mean? Yeah, very forgettable. Like, you know, I thought Marvel was on their way to fixing the villain problem when they came with Thanos, and then the way they upgraded Green Goblin. I said, okay, Marvel's heading in the right direction with handling their villains, and here we go. We're taking a step back with this character. You know what I mean? So I don't know much about him from the comics. I just know here I didn't feel the threat. He wasn't menacing. At no point did I feel like, okay, how are the Guardians going to beat this guy? You know, I felt like that with Adam Warlock. When Adam Warlock came and did his thing, I was like, holy shit, how are they going to beat that guy? But then he spoke, and it ruined it. But with this guy, I'm like, I mean, I knew they was going to defeat him easily. So yeah, he was a weak ass villain, man. I ain't like him at all.
Okay. BG.
Well, I completely disagree. I can make the argument he's a top 5 villain because seriously, in my opinion, because I don't just look at him as a villain in an isolation and isolated. I look at him in context of the entire movie and how his motivation created the context to the protagonist story, Rocket. So when you tie those two together and you understand, we love Rocket's story. Well, it's the High Evolutionary that antagonizes that story as far as what he's trying to pursue. I think we do know his motivations. He wants to create these perfect societies, and we've seen him become successful at it. And when he's unsuccessful, he gets crazy. He starts screaming. He likes things to be perfect. He likes to be in control. When things get out of his control, he gets manic. So they kind of depicted him well. And the reason why he wanted to get Rocket was very poignant because Rocket was one of a kind. He made a lot of different creations, but he never quite made anything like Rocket before. And that's why he wanted him back so bad, because he can't be successful without him. So I think the way, his character was presented was perfect because it antagonizes the entire story. If we really think about it, most of the first 2 acts is about a MacGuffin. They go into this place kind of made of goo or whatever, made of biological material to try to find the files, only to get the files to realize that the file's not there. So they got to go somewhere else to get the file. So they're running around trying to chase this thing to help out Rocket for the first 2/3 of the movie. But at the same time, we understand that the High Evolutionary's quest to get Rocket and the reason why was becoming very, very clear and more clear as we dive deeper into what the High Evolutionary wants to accomplish. So I think the consistency of that character is, for me, surpasses Killmonger. Because Killmonger was a little bit inconsistent. He want to do this, he want to do that. Hey, auntie, all this bullshit. You know what I mean? So I feel like the High Evolutionary could potentially be a top 5 villain. I have to look at every single one. And let me say this really quickly, too. I prefer the High Evolutionary over somebody like Gorr the God Butcher, which I think could have antagonized that story a lot better. But I think the character was weak, and I think the portrayal was weak, and I think his motivation ultimately was weak. Gorr the God Butcher. So if we're just going to rank kind of villains in recent Marvel, I would definitely rank them higher than someone like Gorr the God Butcher.
Okay. I agree, but I mean, all that you're saying is correct. But like, did you feel the threat with him? Like, did you ever feel like, damn, I don't know how the Guardians are going to beat this guy? Like, to me, what makes an effective villain is the threat, the menace. You know what I'm saying? But all that you said is true. The motivation, all that stuff, yeah. But I'm not watching like, wow, I don't know how they're going to defeat this guy. Like, did you ever feel the threat from him?
I didn't feel like he was invincible, right? He's not Thanos. I didn't feel like he was an invincible foe, but I did feel like his motivation could cost the lives of somebody. I feel like he was deadly. I feel like he was a threat to somebody. Now, could he be defeated? Sure, but I thought he blew up an entire planet.
Facts.
He blew up Counter Earth, like, yeah, I fucked up here. I'm out of here. But I'm gonna wipe this shit, clean, and blew it up. Kill Adam Warlock's mother doing that. So his ability to kind of randomly kill is akin to what I like to call, irredeemable qualities. That's what I look for in a villain. A villain that has irredeemable qualities, doing shit that he fucked up and he kind of can't make up for that. And he did a lot of that. So to your point, I don't feel like he was invincible, but I do think he was villainous as far as
but I would counter that argument. Like, you have great points, but I would counter with take take Mysterio from which one, Far From Home. The reason why I like Jake Gyllenhaal as him was when you think about Mysterio's character, Spider-Man could literally beat him in 5 seconds. He's a normal man. He has no superpowers whatsoever. But what made him threatening was his mind, and his presence felt threatening. The illusions he created, and the way he didn't need to beat Spider-Man with overwhelming power. He literally lured him with an illusion in front of a freaking train just to get the upper hand. Someone like that makes, for me, a more compelling villain, where they're greatly outpowered by the heroes, but they still have that sense of danger, like a caged animal. You don't know what they could do. The Joker and Batman, same thing. That's why they are considered great villains. Joker has no physical prowess over Batman whatsoever. He literally has been punched out in 5 seconds by Batman. But what makes him threatening is his unpredictability, and he's willing to do crazy shit just cuz. The moves, yeah, he's mentally unstable. The mood just strikes him and he wants to blow up the city. Like, so I get it from that aspect, but it felt like the danger with the High Evolutionary was just ramped up just to make him appear threatening, but he wasn't threatening. Because when you watch the final fight and then they knock him out so quickly, it kind of deflates the threat level he presented. Like, I get it, his suit was damaged or something, but they should have played more on the fact that he's an intellectual genius, right? He created whole civilizations, and they don't utilize that in the story to up his threat level. Instead, they just kind of go for this mad scientist thing. I think if they would have took a little bit more time and showed his brilliance, and that he doesn't need to beat the Guardians physically, he can outthink them without having to use abilities, I think that would have taken him up that little notch, instead of just being like, oh yeah, his suit got damaged, and then the Guardians just like beat him.
And always hollering. Why are you smarter than me, Rocket? How did you figure that out? How did you know that? I can't take you seriously, dude.
But you see, for me, that's the point what pushed him over the edge, right? Because he's like, how can I create this thing that can figure out something that I couldn't figure out? You know what I mean? And for me, I don't think you have to be like this all menacing type, right, to be a great villain. You could just do good villain stuff, and I think he did that by destroying the planet. You know what I mean? Like, not having a care about all the creations that he did. He didn't care about anything. I do like Black Guru. I think he is one of the top 5. I really do.
Yeah, the issue my issue before I get to LB is when they're like, because I picked up on it the second time where they're like, even Gamora was like, "Oh, you know who the High Evolutionary is? You don't want to mess around." It's like, do you know who your father is? Like, but it's like that when you keep hearing people say like, "Oh, you don't want to mess around with the High Evolutionary. You don't want to mess around with the High Evolutionary." But when you come across him and y'all are fighting 1-on-1, like, you know what I'm saying? He doesn't really, he really doesn't show up. But like, I like everybody's points here. But I want to get LB's thoughts on the High Evolutionary.
So, Rashad brought up a good point. He mentioned wrestling, right? And the talk for a villain to be effective, you have to feel like they're a threat. They can win. They can defeat the good guys. Yes, they are effective villains. Yes, there are bad villains. Like, okay, for example, Andre the Giant, right, against Hulk Hogan. They made you think that Hulk Hogan wouldn't be able to defeat Andre the Giant, and he did. That's how a great story is told. Then you got terrible villains like, say, Baron Corbin. Yes, he's a bad guy, but you don't ever feel like he's going to defeat the good guy. He's just there, and that's this High Evolutionary guy to me. Like, he's a bad guy, right? But he's not threatening. He's not menacing. Like, the guy who was acting, he did a good job acting. But like,
oh yeah,
the character, I just didn't see anything in it. Like Zod said, he's one dimensional. And this is a problem I had with the movie overall. Like, too much, like when you're talking, too much yelling, right? Like, why is everybody in this movie yelling nonstop? like regular conversations, just like we're doing right now, having regular conversation, but somebody's yelling. Like, why? Um,
Mm.
I mean, I felt like he was corny to me. He was extra corny to me, and I didn't. And like you, who mentioned the whole Gomorrah said that? Was that you, Per?
Yeah. Yeah.
See, like things like that. Oh, you don't want to mess with this guy. Okay, what did you show in this movie that he shouldn't be messed with? There was nothing there. Sure, he blew up a planet. Cool. He had a little temper tantrum, but like that doesn't tell me, oh, I don't want to mess with the high evolution. I didn't see that in this movie. I really didn't. And
And I wanted to kind of piggyback off of what LB was saying. Like, if you like look at in wrestling terms and stuff like that, it's okay to have a background villain, and he's very well acted. The actor did a great job, like especially in the beginning, he had just a little bit of that mystery. But like, even like Kang, right? There was something in that acting where you felt the ferocity when he came in and beat the ever loving crap out of Scott in that one scene. That was probably my favorite scene in the
I
whole
disagree.
movie, right?
Not to cut
You
you off, but I think this actor here outperformed Jonathan Majors as Kang.
I
do
would
too.
highly disagree.
I
I do
disagree.
too.
There's an intensity. It's what I'm saying is it's the intensity of the actor and the situation that surrounds it. And the High Evolutionaries actor did great acting, but the scenes and the way that they're kind of structured really let him down because I don't feel the intensity of the moment. I see and I hear the actor giving it their all, and he's delivering his lines very well. Like there's nothing wrong there, and I could see the emotion. But if you don't have the right setting for that scene, and you're not getting the threat overall, then it kind of lets the whole thing down. And it's a problem with a lot of MCU villains, even ones that have potential to be great. I think the way that they structure certain scenes and the way that they try to amp them up is so artificial that when you get to that moment that's supposed to be the villain's moment, it kind of falls flat because there's nothing else backing it up. There's no atmosphere. That's what I'm looking. They don't build
I
the
would
right atmosphere.
I would say the High Evolutionary, like, because he didn't feel like an Avengers level threat.
No.
and
He
that's
felt
okay.
like
But he's going against the Guardians, not the Avengers.
that's my point too. Also, like the Guardians aren't like the most powerful team. Like, you know what I'm saying?
So let me, and with that said, right, like at no point in this movie did I feel like the Guardians of the Galaxy was having problems. Like, okay, they ran into obstacles. Okay, this thing wasn't here, but then they just went to the other place. Like, no, at no point did I feel like, man, they might lose. They might not save Rocket.
Mhm.
Like, I didn't feel that at all.
Okay, but now let's compare him to Kang. You
Mhm.
brought up Kang the Conqueror. The High Evolutionary's motivation, his temperament, and his execution of his plan in this movie clearly is at a higher level than what Kang did in Quantumania.
I mean, Kang wasn't great either.
It's a lot higher.
I mean, yeah, I'm just comparing as far as the intensity goes. I'm not saying he was the best villain either. To be quite honest with you,
I'm just saying,
no
a lot of
Marvel
people
villain's
like
been that
Kang.
great.
I know a lot of people like Kang, and I like Kang too. But if we're gonna kind of make a one-to-one comparison, especially between movies that have come out recently, I think that the way that the High Evolutionary not only antagonized this story, but the way that his actor presented, even with the yelling and the intensity, because the yelling and intensity grew as the drama grew. He didn't come off that way initially, but as things begin to get more chaotic, as the Guardians continue to foil some of his plans, he became more and more manic. If we look at Kang in Quantumania, all of this kind of melancholy, this I'm halfway a good guy, I'm kind of a bad guy.
But he's not a good. He was never
Kang,
like good though.
Kang
He
let
was
old
never.
girl go. Kang let Jane go. He was like, yeah, you can.
No,
you
she
can
escaped.
go.
She escaped. She was able to escape because like she messed up his time.
He was gonna
His
let her
time
go.
check.
He was gonna let her go.
But when he's sitting there talking to Janet about like exactly like the multiverse and stuff, and Janet's like, "Yo, you're going to be killing trillions," and he's like, "I wish that mattered," because all he cares about is winning.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Killing trillions of people doesn't matter. See, I'm glad you brought that
Because
up.
but like I said, his motivation is like to just conquer. Like he wants to him and his other variants have been just destroying whole timelines. That's way bigger of a threat than what the High Evolutionary.
Right.
Last point. I'm gonna make this last point on that, and then I'll turn the floor over. But when we come to Kang's Janet, I called her Jane, but Janet was saying you're going to kill trillions. You're going to kill trillions, and for that you must be stopped. We've seen the damage that the High Evolutionary had done to one of our favorite characters, Rocket. Not only him, but the people he cared about. So his villainy was more in your face and impactful, while Kang's villainy was more in theory. He could kill a trillion people that we don't
But
know and don't care
it
about.
wasn't really. It really wasn't in theory though, because like I said, when you get to He Who Remains, like that's why we have that one singular timeline, because that Kang destroyed all those other timelines. So that was
But
the
this is my
effect.
point in drawing those two comparisons: killing a trillion people versus almost killing Rocket, damaging Rocket, and killing the people he cared about. It has a more emotional weight on the audience. That's why I got to give James Gunn credit. It has a more of an emotional weight on the audience when the people we care about are antagonized and hurt by the villain versus a theoretical trillions of people that, like Kane said, it doesn't really matter because we don't know who those people are to begin with.
I just want to make one more point because I know LB has something to say, but I know there's a lot of people who don't like the show Titans, but I love the show. They're in their final season, and they introduced Lex Luthor. And why I thought this guy killed it as Lex Luthor, because he's a great actor in general. But when he comes on scene, as Lex Luthor should, he doesn't yell or anything, but someone looks at him and they said, you're going to be so powerful, even the gods will fear you. And he turns calmly and slowly. They're in like this big ass like temple thing, right? And he looks at him and he goes, gods already fear me. Gods already know my name. That shit had more impact on me for 5 seconds of a television show than listening to this guy screaming and yelling, because he wasn't yelling. He wasn't trying to be evil. It was just, he was serious. The way he held himself, okay, that's Lex Luthor, and the way he delivered the line, you were like, oh shit, man. And then you think about his rivalries, Superman, Batman, and stuff like that. So when they're hyping him up in the show and they're saying, yeah, even Bruce won't go toe to toe with this guy because they're on the same intellect level, right? Supposedly, I'd say Lex slightly more. But anyways, that's not the point. He conveys all of that, talking calmly and slowly and looking at people's eyes, even people he's never met, and you go, there's just something about him. You don't want to mess with this guy. And that was just the piece for me that was missing from this guy. It's like he was more threatening because of his deeds, but he didn't give that presence like, oh man, like he could go toe to toe with these guys. He just kind of felt like, yeah, he'll beat you up and he'll do horrible things, but I didn't feel the global threat that he could present if they didn't stop him. It felt like, okay, he blew up a planet. He could blow up another planet that he created, by the way. He created that planet. And yes, it's messed up, but it's not anything connected to the larger universe.
If they didn't stop him, he would kill Rocket. See, that was the thing. He was after Rocket. More than anything else, he wanted to kill who the movie was about.
I mean, yeah, I get that, but it's still, in the grand scheme of things, it's still like, yes, it feels cathartic at the moment because we're following Rocket, and the threat is to someone we care about. And like you said, to James Gunn's credit, he's very good at getting people emotionally invested at the characters you're watching right now presented to you. But if we're going to go in the broader scope of the MCU, and then we're doing comparatively the villain objectives, then he kind of really just falls flat because of that one narrow focus. He's not focused on the world, he's focused on a character we like. But beyond that, he presents no other greater threat because he's singularly focused on one member of the Guardians. That's what I'm saying. Whereas someone like Kang or even Killmonger, right? Look at Killmonger's motives. That was on a global scale. He wanted to influence the entire world. He wanted to make a global power. That's something that's globally threatening. That's ambitious. It's big. There's a broader scope. That's why he edges it out for me, because he's thinking big picture, whereas this villain's focused very narrowly on one objective and one objective alone.
It's more personal.
Yeah, it's more of a personal thing, which
It's more personal thing.
So I understand what you're saying, but a lot of people think Zemo is one of the best villains, right? And
Right.
him too. He was the same kind of villain as Kang. Same kind. All he cared about was getting revenge on Captain America and the Avengers. You know what I mean? He wasn't
It's
looking
not.
at a bigger scale or trying to like destroy a universe or anything like that. All he wanted to do was put the Avengers against each other.
But
The only
Zemo is
difference
different because
between
through proxy of his actions, he created a global scale war amongst the greatest superheroes. So, yeah, it was a personal vengeance, but his vengeance affected the wider world. That's where the difference is between Baron Zemo and the High Evolutionary. His actions still had a ripple effect and long reigning consequences that just don't now impact his internal feud, but the global story.
But if you look at Phase 4, those Sokovia Accords, that was well, in, mm,
You see, here's the
like
thing.
okay, well, look at it like this. Look at it like this. The effects Zemo had, what he did, literally lasted for probably like maybe a couple movies, and then all that stuff, like the stuff with the Sokovia Accords, the Avengers being separated, like all that's all that stuff was pretty much fixed and resolved all in Phase 3, lickety split. The Avengers back together, they fight, the bad guy and win. They're all buddy buddy again.
Right, and it wasn't really a global scale because all he did was separate the Avengers. They still fought for the greater good. They just did it separately. You know what I mean? Captain America had his team and Iron Man had his team. So they still fought Thanos separately. They still tried to defend the world. So it wasn't really a global. He was just trying to break them up.
But
No,
So
it
he
was
did it. He did
global
it.
because of the Accord.
He did it successfully though, because if they weren't split up like that, they would have had a better chance to prepare for like Thanos and stuff. But because they were split up, and Tony didn't answer that phone call, or just what I'm saying, like that pretty much caused the whole snap to happen and stuff because they weren't ready. They were all like kind of doing their own thing and stuff. You know. But okay, now how do you feel about the High Evolutionary? And then I want to get to Anzo's thoughts too.
Well, if we're going off just since Phase 4 now, out of Green Goblin and Wenwu, I think so far he's one of the best villains we have had in general. I thought his actions he was doing fit the type of character he was. This mad scientist who's not strong in when it comes to his anything physical, but when it comes to his mental and what he can do, what he can create and produce, that's where he's at most dangerous. And even his outlook on life, like literally, when Star Lord and them went to go meet the High Evolutionary, Star Lord brought up a comment about that moose thingy selling drugs to the cockroaches, and he was like, and then he was like, yeah, you're right. It's not a perfect society, and I'm gonna kill it. And then he just straight up killed it just because it was a moose selling drugs to some cockroaches, because it was not the society he wanted, and he just lifted his ship up and just left. From a threat standpoint, what he can do, what he can create, and that's why I say I wish they didn't kill him, because you could have kept using him to work with somebody else in moving forward in the cosmic space for our heroes to deal with. He could have teamed up with another villain. They come together, build these armies and stuff, whatever, something to have him keep coming around in the future. So, I like him. I thought he's really good. And one thing, like, MC been doing this too much, trying to give every single villain a sympathetic backstory and all that nonsense. He was a true villain. He started a villain, died a villain. That he stayed as that.
Bingo.
There was no. It wasn't like in this. Prime example. 2018 Thanos versus 2014 Thanos. I like 2014 Thanos more than 2018 Thanos, because 2014 Thanos, a bloodthirsty, crazy villain. 2018 Thanos, this dude with this, they're both the same, but they had to, explain, on my planet, we ran out of resources. My people died. Boo hoo. Like, bro, I don't need to know all that. You bad. Be bad. I don't need to know all this sympathetic. I don't need to sympathize with you. The High Evolutionary, I hated him when he squeezed Rocket's head. I wanted to punch him in the face. Like, why you squeezing that cute raccoon head, man? That's messed up. I wanted to punch him in the face. That was disrespectful.
And they did that with Gore the God Butcher at the end, turned him into a sympathetic character. Can you take
Oh,
care
that
of
was
the
I
kids?
hated that
You
so
know,
much.
they kept doing this with, but they did it with Wanda at the end of Doctor Strange, where she's just trying to do her thing. They keep turning these villains into these sympathetic. Well, I'm not just bad. I just make some bad mistakes. No, I like villains who start out as villains and they end as villains.
Right.
Mhm.
They die on their principles. They die because of the things that they do, but they still believe in them. They're not like good guys at heart. That's completely undermining the entire story half the time.
Right, because I'd rather have, not endorsing people being bad stuff, but I can respect somebody that at least stands on, if you at least you're sticking by it. You're not being wishy-washy and flip-flopping, which in some cases can be even worse. You are at least standing on what you believe on. And the High Evolutionary stood on what he believed on. He like what they did with MODOK in Ant-Man 3.
Don't bring him up.
His last I don't
Don't be
want
a
to
dick.
be a dick. I want that shit.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay, Anzo.
Yeah.
Your take?
So, like I said earlier, I said he was like a top 5 villain for me. He's one of those guys. He has like a god complex. You know what I mean? And I know people, his screaming and stuff like that. But for me, it made sense because someone who has a god complex, then they can't understand how they could create someone that was smarter than him. And all he wanted to do was understand his brain so that he could take what he needed from Rocket, give it to them kids so that they can be smarter or have the perfect society. So he was motivated in what he wanted to do. He wanted to have the perfect society, And that one part where he's like, "Oh, she says something about God," and he's like, "There is no God, I'm God." That sums it up for me right then and there, the type of person he was. Yeah. Did I think that the Guardians were going to have an issue beating him? Probably not. But just the things that he did, you know what I mean? And like K-Dot said, he was evil from start and to finish. And I've had an issue with a lot of these villains in the MCU where they try to give them sympathy. You know what I mean? Like, oh no, well, they're doing it for this. Like Killmonger, you could kind of say he was right in what he was doing. You could kind of understand what Kano was doing, you know what I mean? Not Kano, sorry, Thanos was doing. But when it came to the High Evolutionary, it was just, I don't care. Like, he didn't care about anything else but what he wanted to do. That's it. I want to create this perfect society, and I don't care who I have to kill or how many times I have to kill my creations to start over. So I think he's really good. Like, and for me, I think MCU has a real villain problem. So when you get a villain like this, I'm like, yeah, he's up there, one of the top. One of the top for me.
It'll be interesting to see how the rest of this phase plays out and how, whatever other villains we're gonna get in this multiversal saga, and then maybe they'll figure something out with these villains. And I definitely agree they definitely have a villain problem because it's like, whenever they have a really good villain, they kill them off. If it's not a good villain, they keep him around and shit like that. It's very weird. But how did y'all feel about Peter's whole story? Do you feel like this movie wrapped up his arc and what they were doing with him and Gamora and whatnot and stuff like that? Did that work for y'all, Assad?
I gotta say, and I might be in the minority. Hopefully, panel agrees with me. I love the fact of how they ended this because I did not want that like Disney feel that they tend to do, where the dude ends up with the girl at the end from the different timeline because he finds feelings for that were long lost. I thought they were gonna go that route. Thank you, James Gunn. No, that's not how it works. They had no chemistry in this movie at all. And I think that was smart playing into it. And I did like the gist that the Ravengers kind of became like her family because it had a cool message of that you don't need to be in love with someone, or you don't have to let another person define you. Family is the people that you're around, the people that support you, that that you vibe with. And I think that was pretty much a running theme in this movie, besides Rocket's story, that I think a lot of people are overlooking. I like the themes of misfits finding each other and making like a home and stuff
Right.
like that. And at the end of the day, I thought they handled Gamora very well. And they didn't try to do any forced love story. They let you know pretty early it wasn't happening, she said. And really, everything she did was just based off of her own principles she had. It didn't feel like she was really forced into it. And I heard people comment about, oh, she doesn't feel like she's in the group dynamic. Well, no shit. She's from a different timeline. To her, all of these people are strangers. So we got to see her react more on what she felt like morally, as opposed to her just knowing these people. And
Yeah.
I think it made her character a lot better for it.
Even when they're all doing a group hug and then you see Gamora off to the side and she just she acknowledges that, like, damn, like, that's not something I'm going to be a part of. I got my own peoples with the Ravengers and stuff like that, but I like that whole symbolism there.
Yeah, I like that her family was the new Ravagers, and that kind of brought it full circle, because in the other movie, and I don't know how many of you guys caught this, right? But Sylvester Stallone's character gets pissed off at Yondu because of his connection with Peter, and he doesn't understand it. But then you kind of see that connection between him and Gamora at the ending, and it's kind of like that whole, oh, well, now I think he gets why Yondu was, like a father to Peter, because then you can kind of see that dynamic between him and Gamora when he hugged her and stuff like that, and everyone was embracing her. So I thought it brought like everything that they had been doing in the other movies in the background kind of full circle. So it was good. I thought it was very well handled, because they could have went another way, and I'm so glad that they didn't try to force something that wasn't there.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, Rashad, how'd you feel about it?
Yes, I agree with Zod. I thought they were gonna go the route of, like, pulling the whole Disney thing and putting them together eventually. And yes, all along she always had love for him or whatever. So yeah, the fact that they had the balls to do that and not have them hook up, that took some testicular fortitude, and it worked for the story. But I'll be lying if I said it like, okay, so a small piece of me did want to see them get back together, just because I love seeing them in the first two movies, and in the Avengers, Infinity War and stuff. So a big part of me did want to see them get back together, just because I love seeing them together. But I understand why they did the way they did it, and it did work for me. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. I think I like the way they did it. It worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
BG.
Yeah, I agree with Zod and Rashad. I echo a lot of those same sentiments about it. It was well done. I think that, in my opinion, it had to be done this way. They couldn't get back together, because I think if you put them back together, you undermine the original Gamora's death in Infinity War. So I think, again, a credit to James Gunn kind of keeping the continuality together, saying if this is a 2014 Gamora, she can't take the same path as the original Gamora. She can't walk those same, that same path. She takes a different path because things have changed. So I think that's a very logical choice to not put them back together. They still addressed, their situation, or at least Peter tried to, and then she turned back around and acknowledged, like, yeah, maybe we, had something or whatever. But at the same time, I'm not that girl. And I think I'm not that girl was the only way to really go with that.
Okay. LB.
Hold on, sorry. My
Okay.
Chrome tab like duplicated. All right. So I thought for the most part Peter was pathetic in this movie. Like, bruh, you a grown man, bruh. Why are you begging this woman? Like, he's literally begging this woman to come to him. Like, bruh, you know for a fact this is not the same Gamora, bruh, but you're begging this woman non-stop. Like, come on, bruh. Grow up here. Like, seriously, dog.
It's the girl that got away.
It's like, for me, I never bought the relationship between them two. Like I haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy in years, and I've only seen part 2 twice. So even back then, I just never bought it. Like, refresh me if I'm wrong here, but like, okay, they got together between the movies, the first and the second one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like we didn't see this happen. It just, hey, okay, the 2 lead characters, we have to make them a couple. Boom. No explanation. So I never bought it. So I was cool with them not being together in this. Now, Chris Pratt has improved as an actor over the years compared to Volume 2 when he was trying to be a dramatic actor with his daddy, and you just didn't buy it. And there's still moments in this movie I was just like, but man, it's whatever, bro. Like, I know Star-Lord's coming back, but this is like, you need to man up, bro. Like, you need to move on. Find yourself another colored woman. Oh no, that ain't sound right.
Get you a nice blue girl.
Yeah, find yourself a blue woman or something.
Yeah, Nebula. I feel like Nebula had something with there was like she had some feelings towards Peter, but Peter didn't.
Okay, so I'm not crazy.
No,
Perp,
they
you
did
felt
not
the
do
same
that,
way.
but
Nebula
dirty.
and him made more sense.
No, that's weird though. That's weird though.
I
don't know.
You just kind
But
of
He probably was gonna give a Nebula, and that's when Mantis was like, "You can't keep going from lily pad to lily pad. Like you can't go from sister to sister. You gotta
Yeah.
learn how to do something else." So she probably sensed it too with her powers. Like, yeah, don't try to start going on Nebula now.
right.
I mean,
That's all you guys.
that thing down there might not even be functional, bro. She's been torn and ripped to shreds a million times. Hey, when has that ever stopped the man?
Right. But K Dot. What was your thoughts with Peter and stuff overall?
There's a part of me that does agree with LB about Peter being pathetic in parts of the movie, especially with the Gamora stuff. He was saying a lot, he said it multiple times in the movie, and it was kind of bothering me because it's part of the MCU's dumb time travel that they still don't even know, where he was literally walking to her saying, you don't remember what the past couple years, like, bro, she's from a different universe. What are you talking about? She has nothing to remember. But later in the film, when he starts to get back to business and deliver Star-Lord, I felt like he really did his part. Only really thing I had a critique of was like, where is his rocket boots and helmet at?
Yeah, man.
Like, majority of his gear was like gone the whole movie. He had a cool suit, but like, where's everything? Like, he got to this point, finally got the suit, all that, where everything is not fully coming together. He was lacking. But I think they did that just so Gunn can do the ending where he puffed up his face and stuff and show all that.
You know the reason why. I'm a Hollywood actor. People need to see my face and know who I am.
Well, wait a second. It was a lot of breathing in space going on because they breached, like, they kept breaching like the ships and stuff, and they were like still breathing. Like when they were fighting,
when
they punched through. Remember those little things, that little swarm of things, kind of punched through the glass, and it broke the glass when Rocket was driving.
Oh
yeah,
that's true.
But like, where's the oxygen coming from? Like, why? Like,
right.
And even to your point, now that you said that, even when Adam Warlock goes right through the ship, you know what I mean? Like, there's no shields to stop it or anything. So yeah, you got a good point there. I didn't even think about that.
That was happening a lot. I didn't notice that.
Oh, you talk about the oxygen and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Because they're in the middle of space, and then like ports and things keep getting breached, but
yeah,
like,
you're right.
Nobody's struggling to breathe. They had this
They did mention it in the movie. I know what you're saying. They are very inconsistent throughout the entire MCU with certain things, but like they were mentioning in the movie about not being able to breathe and breathing and stuff at certain points.
Nebula and Drax, they did acknowledge it.
Yeah, when they were going to space, they acknowledged it at that point. That was the only acknowledgement, but there was a lot of just, standing on the ledge and being right next to space and stuff, and or breached ships and things like that, where you don't see oxygen flying out or anything like that. So
it's just one of those things. Like, they all manage to be in the MCU. They can all talk to each other when they're miles away from each other with no, device and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just something I noticed. It didn't really kill the movie for me, but I just kind of noticed that, like, from a sci-fi perspective.
That's fair though. That's a fair critique though. Anzo, how'd you feel about Peter's whole, arc and stuff like that?
I thought it was fine. You know what I mean? I understand you guys like shitting on Peter and shit, but if you've ever been in love, man, it could have you doing some fucked up things. Right? So this man was looking at Gamora, and K-Dot saying she's from another universe. She wasn't from another universe. She was from another timeline, right? So he knew that the Gamora that he fell in love with was inside of her. He knew it was there, right? So I understand that, man. But like, I find it was great that they didn't get together, but I'm like, Black Guru, I was like, yeah, I thought she would have at least, joined the Guardians at the end. But the fact that they didn't, I was okay with that too. But again, like I said, I didn't have an issue with him like trying to rekindle his love for Gamora, because
It's
like from what we know from this movie, that's his first love. You know what I mean? And when it's your first love, you do a lot of things that you would not do, man, when you lose that first love.
So you went. So when you your first love left you,
yes,
went out
I
there
did.
begging, bro.
Yes, I stalked her.
Man, what?
I stalked her. All right. So there you go.
Okay, let me tell you something. The part that resonated with me, to add on to your point, was that part where they do the walk on, and this kind of got a chuckle out of me, and they're carrying him and he's half drunk. Bro, I remember days like that when you lost a person you love, and you put on that CD.
Fun fact about that
drink. Yeah, absolutely.
Fun fact about that scene, I've been seeing like James Gunn post stuff on his TikTok like that. That was an actual like little, it was a fake body. It was weird though. That was really weird.
But it makes sense, because if you have to do that scene and you have to carry him, like how many times you do that scene, cut, we need to do it again. You know what I mean? It makes sense that it was a fake body.
Yeah, I'm not bothered by how Peter was acting, just because like you look at all the different movies, and he dealt with a lot of loss, like him even mentioning like his mom, like ever since he lost his mom, that's he's always been running away from those issues and whatnot, and trying to like, and then he meets his father, and then his father is the one that gave his mom the cancer and stuff, and then like that, it's one thing after another, and just and going back to what Zod said, it's really dope seeing this team come together, because it really is a dysfunctional family. They all had some issues, Rocket with the High Evolutionary, Nebula and Gamora with Thanos, and the Let's Go
daughter and all that stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah, so it all comes like full circle, really.
So y'all perfectly fine with this grown man acting pathetic in this movie.
Yeah, because people act like that.
I mean, LB, think about it, bro. Okay, the woman that you love dies, right? She's gone, and you're hurt over that. But then she comes back in physical form, but she has no remember of you or y'all or nothing like that. So it's like, damn, you got your woman back, but she don't know you. That'll fuck anybody up, bro.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I mean, but despite that, I think it's my bigger issue overall that I always have with Star-Lord, and it's not that he can't be this. I mean, this is in his character, but him being so emotional, as he's seen it with his dad, how he reacted in Guardians 1, and then you've seen it in Infinity War. How I understand why he did what he did in Infinity War, but regardless of anything, what he did was a dumb decision that was very selfish and costed a lot of people, because he couldn't contain his emotions for something very. It's in his character. Not saying, but I think
But to your point,
I never really vibe with his character, because he is too emotional. Like
Right, but to
Man,
your point, K-Dot, I like the fact that he actually acknowledged that in this movie. And he
yeah, I
was
like
like,
it too. I
yeah,
like
I
it.
almost destroyed the universe. I lost my temper and almost destroyed the universe. So I
Yeah.
like that he acknowledged that. He knew he did something wrong, right? And like I said before, when you in love with somebody like that, you will do things that you would not normally do if you were in your right mind. You just wouldn't.
I mean,
Especially when she
but
dies and come back and don't even know you.
what, like,
Facts.
what in the movies have they shown to us that they're so madly in love?
So you said, like you said, they fell in love off screen, right? But in the first one, the seeds are there because there's that one scene where he puts the headphones on her, he grabs her hand and holds it, and he's about to kiss her. So you could see it starting. Yeah, they got
She was feeling it
Oh,
too.
they,
He
they,
was
they didn't
right.
hook up. They didn't hook up in the first movie.
No,
Nah, I,
No, they didn't
they
really
hooked
hook
up in
up, but they
between.
showed scenes.
their strongest.
Scenes of
I,
it.
I
Yeah.
think their strongest love scene, because you're right, they don't have a ton of them. I think it's in Infinity War when Gamora was being held by Thanos, and then she was like, "Kill me! I told you to do it. Kill me!" And then Thanos was like, "Yeah, kill her." You know what I'm saying?
Mhm,
And then he
mhm.
pulls
Yeah,
the
that's
rope
it.
to come out, and he was like, "Yeah, I like this one." I think
Yeah.
that was their strongest kind of, scene to show that they both really care about each other, whatever. But they're not. Yeah, they're not Lois and Kent. They're not.
They're
It's
not
not that
Hani
type
and
of
Oh,
Hani
don't
relationship.
even
Leia.
get me started on Lois. That's a whole
I,
different other thing. Like, look,
I,
that
Yeah,
bitch needs to stay at home and stop putting Superman into
I,
95% of Superman's troubles is that bitch wanting to go out and get a picture. It's
Facts.
like, God damn it.
Hey, that's
Damn.
Lois' job. She
I,
working.
I guess Gamora got that fire then.
You must have, yeah.
That
I
fire
bet
poom
she
poom.
does. What?
Got that wop.
Hey, man, that fire poom poom though, bro. I tell you, you get that fire one, and yeah,
Listen, my,
man.
my
But
uncle, my uncle used to say
Have
all the
that
time.
Lois.
My uncle
That's why
used
I
to say,
say. That's why I say Nebula and Gamora. You gotta keep them close. They the daughters of Thanos. They are mentally messed up in the head, but down there, man,
let me
they
tell you
got it
something.
going
My uncle,
on.
my uncle always used to say, "Boy, that thing between a woman's legs, that's a powerful thing, son. That's a
Facts.
powerful thing, boy."
Facts.
but
Facts.
to bring things start wrapping things up a little bit. I think the person that shines the most, that has the most craziest development, I'd say is Nebula. Like
Yes.
she is like watching her character just throughout these different movies is just really really dope. So what you think about Nebula?
I like the fact that Nebula still has her edge, but they don't completely like make her like yeah, I guess not too much emo and not too much like oh I've changed, I'm a Disney princess now. Like none of that. She's like kind of stayed consistent, but grown throughout her experiences and interactions. I'd say actually out of a good majority of the MCU, she's probably the most consistent and the most character growth out of everybody because of she stayed learning and doing different things, but she doesn't lose who she is. Like when she was talking to them kids and yelling at them because she couldn't understand. I think one of my other favorite parts too was when they were locked in that cage and she's yelling at the kids and can't understand what they're
Yeah.
saying. And then Drax just starts talking to him in the language, and then he looks at her and she goes, "Well, why didn't you just do that in the first place?" And he's like, "You never asked." Like it was, he says, "Why didn't you ask?" Like I thought, like yeah, that was. It's like she's changing, but also constantly learning and learning how to improve herself, and that is a good character, a character that never stops changing because in reality, people don't ever stop changing.
Right.
So
And I like the scene where like Gamora is going to punch Peter and then she
You
stops.
stole my
She
shit.
stops her and
Yeah.
like yo like they're
Mhm,
like I'm your family. Like no he's family. Like
mhm,
acknowledging that like she acknowledges Peter as family and stuff and whatnot. But
mhm.
Rashad, how do you feel about Nebula's
Well,
character?
well, Zod's making my job very hard tonight, man. We've been agreeing 90% of the time this whole panel, and bro, like you keep taking the words out my mouth, man. So yeah, I agree with everything you just said, bro. Like, yeah, she had the most growth out of everybody, and while still staying true to her character, she still had the best arc without it feeling forced. You know what I'm saying? Like you can see the growth, but still she's still being Nebula. And the way her body fucking contorts and shit, like when her head gets snapped, like her neck gets snapped, and it just like comes back together. I'm like, damn, so what the fuck is she made out of? Golly.
Hey,
Rocket gave her that upgrade.
you know what
I
we're talking about with
guess so.
Gamora, right?
I know she always been able to do that with her
Yeah.
body comes back
yeah,
together.
yeah.
Flexible.
So yeah, that's it. So yeah, not to
Ain't no
ramble. Yeah,
taking it
I
up.
agree with what Zod said, man. Like she had the most growth, she had the biggest arc, and she was besides Rocket, she was my second favorite character in this movie.
Okay. BG.
Yeah, I was. You asked the question earlier, who's your favorite original Guardian, and I said Peter, but Nebula's actually my favorite out of all of them. I think, she's had the most growth. She's been the most consistent. Even though she kind of switched to the good side, she's still been very consistent. She was strong in Infinity War. She was strong in Endgame. Like she's always strong, and her actor always does a great job as well. And there's layers and depth to her character. Depth to her character. So I just, I really appreciate Nebula a whole lot. So, but I want to throw a little bit of, I want to say this. I talked about the scene where Drax was kind of, learn how to speak with the kids and stuff like that. I think it's time we start saying Batista is the best wrestling actor.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Easily.
yeah,
Easily.
dude, Batista's
Yeah,
so
he's
underrated.
the best.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I
It's
think
amazing how criminally underrated he is.
yeah, he's
isn't
very
it?
underrated. He's very underrated, and I think tonight he shined a lot too in this movie,
Mhm.
or let's just say in Guardians, he shined a lot too because he had an arc, and everybody's calling him stupid and shit like that. It was like, I'm not stupid for real. Like I just, he is who he is. So he ends up being more of a father, but that was his entire arc in the first place, was to be a father, and that was his motivation. So I really appreciate what they did with Drax. He could have got kind of left in the background, but there was enough effort given to make him a kind of mainstay character. So I like Nebula, and I like Drax as well.
And I like that Nebula, and I like that Nebula is the one that said like, you're not a destroyer, you're meant to be a father. Like
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
her
that
line,
was.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What you saying, Rashad?
Oh no, I was saying that they left that part for Groot to be the background character that nobody talked about. Like Groot,
But
no purpose, man.
But even with Groot, when he says I love you guys and stuff,
Oh
like
yeah,
I like that because it's like it was like kind of like letting the audience know, because like he didn't really say that, but it was just like that was pretty cool. But LB,
Wait a second, that's what you got from that? The fact that he said I love you guys, and it was like, so he was really saying I am Groot, but the audience understood him. Is that what you're saying? Okay,
Yeah.
I thought that to mean he learned some like another language. Like instead of saying I am Groot, you know how you can say like Buenos noches, you know what I mean? Like I'll learn y'all language and say stuff in y'all language instead of always saying I am Groot.
No, but I took that the same way, because even Gamora, when Gamora was around him, at first she just kept saying like, okay, I know you're Groot, stop saying that. But then the more she was around him, she started to understand him. So I got that out of that too.
LB, how'd you
I thought he was that I am like, I love you guys.
I love you too, bruh. Since we're being soft grown men tonight.
But LB, how'd you feel about Nebula's character?
Nebula is actually one of my favorite characters. Like between her and Mantis, like I've always loved Nebula since the first time I seen her in the first movie. So, it's cool to see her growth as a person, and like Karen Gilliam or Gillen, well, whatever her name is. I know it's Karen something, but anyway, she does a great job to me portraying the character, because like you see, like she has this evilness in her, right? But she knows she can't be that, so she's trying. So like when she's been bad for so long, and like she does things and she catches herself, she's like, oh no, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Like when she was with the kids, like she hates these kids' guts. She hates the kids' stinking guts. But she's like, but no, I'm not supposed to hate them. So, it was nice to see her growth over the years. Hopefully, she sticks around in the MCU. I'm not really one of those people like she deserves her own movie. I rock with Nebula.
Okay. Okay.
And one more thing, when Rashard was talking about how flexible she is, like you never know, bruh. You know, she might have potential. You know, if you know what I mean.
Listen, put it.
Yeah, funny. Dot. How about you? How do you
Well,
feel about Nebula?
always it wasn't until Guardians 2 when I really started liking Nebula, but I always liked her. I always thought she was actually one of the few good characters in the Endgame that, was there. She was actually one of the best, like top 5 character of that movie. Yeah, I thought Nebula was done perfectly. She got the ending. I don't know about the resolution they did with her, but I can see where she was coming from. She wants to finally have a home for herself that she could never get because she grew up in a dysfunctional home where she was constantly torn apart because she failed to defeat her sister. But as a character, I thought she was done well overall, and she always been good. It's for me. I felt like I wish she had more to do in Infinity War as a character. There was some stuff that was wasted, but in these Guardians films, James Gunn really elevated her.
Yeah, can we give a shout out to Chuck, the lone writer who's writing Nebula? Good job, bro. You've been consistent over the years. Hopefully, they give you a pay raise. Because, it's probably just that one writer going, hey, guys, I wrote something new for Nebula. And they're like, yeah, put it in the pile, Chuck. Good job.
Yeah.
You talking about in the movies or comics?
No, I'm just talking about in general. There's that one guy in the writing room who's been consistent for, like, years now. Hey, guys, don't
I'm
forget
not sure if
Nebula.
y'all seen it. It's kind of a derail, but it's about James. He said he was the one that came up with the whole Infinity Saga origin and stuff, like the origin of the Infinity Stones and stuff, and how all that came to be.
Really?
Which makes sense because like that popped up in what Guardians? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, interesting. Anzo, how you feel about Nebula?
Yeah, she had the best growth out of all the characters and out of all these movies. Starts off evil, wants to kill, and then ends up, basically telling I'm gonna stay here and build a society that I never had and stuff like that. I thought she was a great character. I really enjoy her. I hope we get to see more of her, to be honest with you. I liked, like you said, there's at some points where she's like cursing off the kids, like, be quiet and all of this stuff. She pushing Drax, had Mantis standing up for Drax, but then at the end she realized, like, Drax is not dumb. He's not this, he's not that. Her growth was really good. I thought she's a great character.
I mean, the man just don't understand metaphors. Like, that doesn't make him an idiot. He just doesn't get metaphors.
He takes everything literally.
I mean, he is dumb. Like, let's be real. He is dumb, but you can't just keep calling people dumb and stupid all the time.
Yeah.
It's not nice.
But yeah, to kind of wrap things up, I think we could all agree the best scene in this movie was the hallway scene. That's the best like action scene, like
especially
the
you
film.
mix with the Beastie Boys. Like if you put the Beastie Boys like backdrop with anything, it's gonna be badass.
Mm-hmm.
That's why for Superman Legacy, I'm not even worried about the action because James Gunn showed in I think Peacemaker and this movie really showed off James Gunn's how he can get some good action choreographers to come together and choreograph some dope action. Because Peacemaker, has some good choreographed fights.
Dope action, and he can give Superman the heart that people say he doesn't have. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So he could probably, I think he's gonna do a good job with Superman Legacy.
That and when they dropped the first F-bomb, the first fuck in the MCU, which was for everybody kind of like was like, oh damn, that was crazy. Like,
open the fucking door.
Yeah.
I was thinking that
originally we were supposed to get that in Endgame because Robert Downey Jr. wanted to snap and say "fuck you, Thanos" instead. He didn't.
That'd be crazy.
I was impressed with the hallway scene. When I saw that, I was like, man, I should have seen. I might have to go back and see this in the IMAX because, like, I don't know if y'all paid attention, but I think this might be the best looking MCU movie. Like,
Oh yeah,
this
Oh yeah,
movie,
hands down.
it
Yeah,
was
it was.
like pristine, like how sharp, how
Real
clear
clean.
things were. Like it was, like at times I was like, bruh, am I looking at this in real life?
Yeah.
And the way the
Wow.
camera's panning around and stuff, like that
Yeah.
shit was really dope, yo. Like
And
that was
it
really
makes
dope.
it makes you look at shit like the Quantum Realm and Wakanda Forever, and you look at some of those, like the CGI in those movies, and you're like, wait a second, this is a whole new world here. Like it's night and day between the quality. And one last point, the creativity, right? You got a whole world that's like biomechanically made, and you got all of these different creatures and all of these kind of imaginative entities that are in Guardians that look beautiful. But when you look at Wakanda Forever and Quantumania, everything looks like it's pulled off a word processor or some Windows 95 kind of shit, you know. But so I thought the CGI in this movie was very, very good.
Yeah, this is the thing, and now I can definitely stand behind my thing where people were coming out and going, "Oh, James Gunn take it over the DC." I've watched and followed all of James Gunn's career. The man has never done nothing but improved with his cinematography, the timing on his jokes, the timing of his emotional beats through his movies, messages, and things like that. If you follow his career, it's just gotten better and better. I mean, he took, like, to me, that movie, The Suicide Squad, is so underrated with how much you look at the original one they made versus his, and the complete stark contrast with not just the cinematography, but the way that the jokes were and the emotional payoffs. Like that scene where Peacemaker fought Flag is probably one of my favorite fist fight scenes. It was so brutal and visceral, and the camera movements and the angles on that were clean. So it's like he's always been good when it comes to picking his shots and things like that. And I just think it was really stupid decision for Marvel to let this man go, because I think you're
mean-
going to notice a big quality shift in DC.
I don't think it was a decision. Maybe he just, wanted to move on and do other things. It's like some people don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Being under Kevin Feige, where he can be a Kevin Feige, he
That
can
too.
kind of
Good
so it's
for-
almost like a promotion of sorts.
Yeah,
like,
that it is. Yeah, absolutely. Hey,
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, James Gunn like really does well with like these ensemble casts where like something like Eternals where that didn't really flow as well with like all those characters and stuff. But
Perp, I got
That's
a
a-
question though, bruh.
but
So you're not gonna talk about Sean Gunn in this movie, bruh?
I see your review. You mentioned that. I was okay with it. I was okay with it, but it it definitely is. He did. You could have left him out of the movie, and it wouldn't have changed nothing. You know what I'm saying?
I disagree. Just to get Yondu back, where he was like, "Use your heart, son. Use your heart, man." Listen, I don't care what you say about the dog joke or whatever. Personally, for me, it landed because that's a goddamn cute dog. But like, I just like the fact that he does have a mini character arc, because when you see him from Guardians 1 to just being the goofy like stooge almost of Yondu, to like Perp, you left him out, but legitimately he has saved the Guardians tons of time. He literally is the whole reason why they got out of that at the end of the movie. Like, he is that low-key pivotal character that nobody ever acknowledges.
This guy,
He's the unsung hero.
this guy
He's
put his own brother into the movie just because he's his brother, bruh. Like, what other movies has he ever been in?
Well, LB,
He was talking about. I saw.
put your brother in the movie.
Huh?
I said you wouldn't put your brother in the movie if he was a director.
Bruh, he had too many. Oh, let me answer. Yes, I would if he wanted to be, but like, no, bruh, he had too many scenes, bruh. Like, literally, the first act is basically the entire Sean Gunn, bruh.
I mean,
But I was seeing this. I was seeing this shit, this little interview he was having where he was like, yeah, at one point like his acting career was just like took a nosedive, and I guess like with James kind of giving him that opportunity, and that's I don't see that's nothing wrong with it, but I can understand like it could be a little bit much and stuff. Like I said, like you could have took him out of the movie and it'd been you know.
Right.
Y'all
Like you can
remember
have anybody play that role. He didn't bring any personality or charisma to it that nobody else could have brought. Like,
you remember the first Avengers movie, and in the third act they kept showing the waitress.
Oh yeah.
That's exactly what was happening in this movie, bruh. Every time you look around, Sean Gunn is in this scene, bruh. Like, why, bruh?
That's funny.
Well, weren't they setting him up to be like the next Yondu or whatever? Right?
Yeah.
Bruh, James Gunn is gone. You will never see this guy in the MCU again.
Right. Cosmo had more personality than him.
Yeah.
The voice acting on Cosmo was more charismatic.
Was that a Russian accent, or was it like it kind of like it sounded French at first, but then she's like Soviet, and I was
It
like,
bounced
okay, she's
around.
Russian.
It bounced. It was American at some times, and then it was Soviet, and it was it bounced
It's supposed to be Soviet, but Disney's trying to ride that safe line, so they didn't want
It was the Natasha Romanoff accent.
Exactly.
Hilarious. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, that shit just disappeared.
Well, I will say I wish they could have swapped your boy Sean Gunn with Howard the Duck, man. I want because like they always show Howard for a little bit, and then they don't show him no more. I'm like, dude, how come we can't get more Howard?
Dude,
Howard had a
greatest
line in
90s
this movie though.
ever.
Yeah, he had a line. What was his line?
I don't even know.
He said something.
No, his line was about, come on, man, that ain't right. Say good dog
something
already.
like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the whole good dog, the good dog.
Yeah, someone in the chat.
They should have gave us more Howard, man. And but I'd say like my biggest gripe of the movie was the whole second Earth, that whole alternative Earth thing with all the like those manimal things or whatever. That shit kind of put me to sleep. I'm sorry, I wasn't into that little story at all.
Which one?
When they went to the alternate Earth or whatever, where they had all those.
Oh yeah. That shit was kind of creepy. I was like, yo, what the hell kind of Stepford's wife is this? Like,
hey, what if that is actually happening somewhere, bro?
Definitely, most definitely.
It probably is, but it brought the movie to a halt to me. Like I started going to sleep around that time when they started doing that.
They didn't spend that much time on there though.
And the fact that the High Evolutionary like literally recreated a Earth. That was probably a planet that you found that was similar to Earth, but he literally recreated an Earth, created a whole species, and planted them on it.
His justification was pretty good too. You know what I'm saying? Because he was like, I've been to Earth and it was pretty dope. Like he was like, yeah, this is just pretty good here. Like this is a good, you know, template.
Besides the bigotry, he's like beside the bigotry and and all that stuff.
Yeah,
that's why I wonder. And they don't usually make this clear because when Quill was taken to be part of the Ravagers, even the Ravagers acknowledge, he's so different from us. He's a lot weaker and stuff because he's human. And you see all these other human characters like Nathan Fillion and the High Evolutionary. Like they're never, if those people are human like that, because there was a point in Guardians of the Galaxy like Quill almost felt like the only human in the galaxy type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's because he was weaker than the other Ravagers, but he had his uses. I wonder if the High Evolutionary was even human or was he like something from another planet or whatever.
I think he was like he was definitely like some type of cyborg. Cause he had like wires coming out of his head and all that stuff. So he probably like was doing all his own experiments. Because I think they even mentioned that like he was doing his own stuff on him. So
yeah.
Really quickly, when they because this scene kind of went by fast, but Perp, you watched it twice. When they revealed where Raccoon was from, or Rocket Raccoon was from, when all of his information was on the wall, did it say Australia?
No, I think it said America.
Yeah, it said North America.
North America. Okay, so
some of the animals were from
Earth
there.
too.
Some of the animals from Australia.
I have one more question for you, right? Because I know Perky said you want to wrap it up. I got another question here. I know I mentioned Groot a couple of times. I feel like he's just the forgotten character here. But okay, at the end, the end credit scene, how fucking big he was. I said, wait a minute. So this is supposed to be the resurrection of Groot from the first movie, but Groot was never that damn big.
Well, when you go back to, I think it was Guardians 2 or the first Guardians, wherever he was drawing that picture, he showed the picture and he like of him being big and stuff like that. I guess he had like a, like that was what he wanted to be like. That was that Groot, what he's gonna end up.
So I was gonna ask, like, okay, so the Groot in Guardians 1 wasn't full grown Groot, like he was still like. Huh?
Well, these two different groups. They're two different groups, though. So
Yeah, I think what it was, and that's why I said I wish they kind of explained group powers more. That might be something he can turn into because we saw in the movie he kind of did like a kaiju version when it was
Yeah.
at the thing that was much bigger than the one we saw. It was just a little bit skinnier, wasn't
Right.
fully, branches wasn't that thick. I think he can choose to be that big because that's the only thing I can make sense. Because, like I said, this is a group spawned off from another group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he grew
Yeah,
wings in the middle of the air, so
Right.
I just
That was
figured he
dope.
can,
And I think
Yeah,
he can
'cause
just
he was
turn that
so-
big when he wants to.
yeah, he
he
can
was
beat
so
Harry on
huge.
big.
I was like, damn, look like he'll give the Hulk a run for his money, man. As big as he is.
Yeah, he'll definitely beat up the Hulk. Like anybody can beat the Hulk right now. So.
Right.
In the
I don't
MCU,
even know why I
absolutely.
opened up that can of worms. I don't even know why I did that to myself.
You keep thinking that, bruh.
But all right, so let's just wrap this up. Final thoughts, Zod?
I thought this was a solid movie. I'm happy to say a MCU movie might actually make my top 10 movies this year, and I was a little bit afraid because the last couple of years, none of them were even on my list. They were just, but this one actually hit. I was feeling it. They did something that I finally have been begging, like tone the humor down. And I'm hoping this isn't a one-off thing. I'm hoping that it's not just, oh, James Gunn was fighting with Disney and said, no, I'm gonna make this the way I want to make it. I'm leaving, and that's that. Like I hope
He's
they
done,
see
bro. He's
this
gonna
and
come
they
back.
go, like I hope they see this.
No, Taika Waititi will take over for like the new Guardians. Watch.
Don't
Oh
do
God,
that,
no!
bruh. Don't
Oh
do
God,
that,
no!
bruh.
No,
Don't do
no,
that.
no!
Don't do that.
Blasphemy.
Please don't do that.
You giving them ideas, man? Stop that.
I'm saying it's gonna happen, yo. It's either gonna be Taika or they probably get Ryan Johnson.
Taika been deported back to wherever he came from, bro. That's what
Hilarious.
happened after. That's what happened after that last Thor movie, bro. Bob Iger was like, no mas, no mas.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it was solid, and I liked it, and I will definitely be owning it and seeing it again, probably.
Okay. Rashad, final
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, this movie was definitely needed because Marvel has been letting me down for the past couple of years. So this kind of, built my faith back up in Marvel again until the Marvels drop. But yeah,
I think you guys are sleeping on that. I think that's going to be a good
Me
movie.
too.
I'll just say it right now.
gonna suck ass.
Everybody's sleeping on the Marvels.
Yo,
think it's gonna be decent.
besides Tiana Paris looking finer than frog hair, sweeter than bear meat, that movie's gonna suck.
No,
I'll watch it
you
just
know
for
what?
her. Though. I like her, but other than that,
Hold on. Me and
Sammy
LB
Jackson
talked
don't
about
do bad
this.
movies.
Me and LB talked about this, and I think that there is one thing everybody is forgetting with the Marvels is that Kamala Khan, that actress, is actually very likable, which is
Yeah.
something the MCU is in very short supply of. And I actually kind of like the way she approaches the character and the way she's not a complete bitch in every scene. I think it's like refreshing, and it's less annoying than Peter Parker ever was. So I would say like I really like Kamala Khan as a character, and I hope that they don't do anything stupid with her. But I think there's some, and Brie Larson was smiling.
listen, I hope I'm wrong. Listen, I'm one to admit when I'm wrong. So if it's good, I'll call a spade a spade. But as far as Guardians go, yeah, it was kind of bittersweet because this is the last Guardians movie, at least with this group. Last James Gunn movies going on to DC now, so he goes out with a bang. Loved it, but yeah, this is probably the last we're gonna see of a movie like this for a while because I think everything else is gonna stick to a certain formula how Kevin Feige likes, and this one kind of detoured from that. That's why I think it's getting the good reviews that it's getting because it's not following that typical Marvel formula to the T like the other ones do.
You'd be like since y'all fired me, y'all, and y'all brought me back, I get to do whatever the fuck I want. That's what it's like. I want to drop an F-bomb in here. You're going to allow it. So,
and no woke bullshit either. I was like, damn, there's no wokeness in this movie.
Don't do that, bro.
Thank
Don't
God.
do that.
don't do that. Don't be Tyrone Magnus and shit.
I mean, I'm just
there
saying,
was-
there's no wokeness.
What you mean?
in
Well,
this
like,
movie.
let's be specific because
Hey,
that word.
no, bro. Let's not do
Okay,
that,
let's
bruh.
not. But
There was some political
Listen,
stuff social issues and animal cruelty. That's a social issue.
Is it?
I mean, not saying everyone cares as much. In the world that falls in political, social stuff.
I'll go to BG. Final thoughts.
I echo a lot of what Rashad said. I think this is a bit of a bittersweet kind of thing. I think this would probably be the highest quality Marvel film we'll see in quite some time, on a multitude of different levels, from the heart to the plotting to the villain to the CGI. I think there won't be a movie that hits all of those levels, because of that Kevin Feige formula that just kind of brings movies from their potential. So I feel like it's bittersweet in that regard. I am looking forward to the Marvels, because
Secret Invasion,
Secret Invasion 2, and also the Marvels because of, like I said, Kamala Khan. I'm looking forward to Samuel L. Jackson and the Monica Rambeau character. I think those three can have the makings of a good movie. So I have a little bit higher hopes, and I have the ultimate high hopes for what James Gunn does in DC. I think there finally will be the hierarchy has finally changed, and it ain't got shit to do with The Rock. You know what I mean? I think it's James Gunn who's going to really be the real Black Adam and really shift that hierarchy. And I think this movie is evidence of the potential of that. So I'm looking forward to DC and Marvel. Let's just see if they can ever recover or get back to some of their past glory.
Okay. LB.
Well, I didn't enjoy the movie as much as y'all did, clearly, but I did like the movie. I'm probably gonna go see it again. Of course, I'm about to Blu-ray because I collect the movies. But I'm just to touch on y'all Marvels. Let me just say this: the trailers for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 were not good. The Marvels trailer is not good. Now, I'm not going to say this movie is going to be great. We'll just have to wait and see. But also I want to point out that they are showing off Brie Larson's assets in this trailer a little bit, so that might entice some of y'all to go see it in the theater.
Me.
Man, forget Brie Larson, man.
Yeah, I gotta see it in IMAX. I gotta see those assets.
Assets? You mean liabilities?
Liabilities?
I said assets. Perp's the one. Perp's the one there. What's the word? Enunciating a certain part of the word. I didn't. I'm on your side.
I gotta get my Captain Marvel T-shirt. Y'all find me one. Go to Hot Topic or some shit.
Yeah, me too. Perp. I already got my subscription to Brie Larson's channel. Shout out to Brie. If you ever want to come by the Phantom Zone, we won't do you dirty on my channel. We will treat you with the respect you deserve. Just saying.
Brie Larson's Captain Marvel has the personality of a wet mop. All right, like
that is blasphemous, sir. She just needed to act.
Yeah, no Brie slander.
Okay, I'll leave it at that.
I mean,
that's
she. I feel like, she thinks she has a lot of personality and charisma, but she doesn't, and no one's out there to tell her that she doesn't. So it's just like it comes off bad.
I think
kind of
she
like when you have a
is
boogie
one of.
hanging out your nose and nobody wants to tell you have a boogie in your nose.
Yeah.
I think there are in this world actors who can carry roles, like your Christian Bales, William Dafoe, Helen Mirren, things like that. Actors who can carry a role by themselves and don't need direction. And then you got actors who need directions to carry the role. And I think Brie fits in that category, along with like Jennifer Lawrence and these other actresses that think that they're super great. I think they're more of, if you put them in the right role and give them good direction, they can pull out the performance that they need. However, if you just go, okay, this is the character, make it your own, they don't got that ability. And I think that's where she falls. Like, if you give her good direction, she has potential to give a good performance. But if you don't, then, you get Captain Marvel 1.
Right. But that's all you gotta say, LB.
Yeah, I mean, not really much else. I know y'all talked about the villains, and let me say this real quick. As far as the villain thing, it's like, it's okay if a villain doesn't want to blow up the world. You know, it's okay if the villain wants to just have a singular goal of taking one person out. You know, it's okay. Um, so I don't think it's so much of a villain problem. Like there's issues with villains, but like I feel like too many people just feel like every villain should want to take over the world like their pinky in the brain.
Well, LB, I think it's this. I look at the villains in the MCU. Look at the amount of movies we got. I look at the villains in the MCU like a album with a 22 song album with only 5 to 3 good songs. That's how I look at the villains.
That's a bad album, bro.
It's like definitely 5 solid villains that are like solid. Then you just have some other songs that are just like forgettable, or they're just bad.
The MCU, you got to look at it as the Saturday cartoons, the weekly cartoons. Like every week isn't going to be Rita Repulsa. One week you might get Goldar or some random putties. You feel me?
Rangers. Yeah, Goldar is funny as hell. K-Dot, what's your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Disney, thank you for firing James Gunn. You guys are idiots. They have dropped the ball. They are so they are dumb. Really think about it. How many directors in the MCU had a creative mind like James Gunn? Like really doing some different creative stuff. It was a few like maybe Josh Whedon, Russos, him, James Gunn. That's it. Really, it's all I can think about. The rest, Ryan Coogler, but I like too. Ryan Coogler too.
I'm sorry, most of the directors are creative. It's just they have to follow guidelines. Like think about it. Kenneth Branagh.
It's like they're doing.
No, listen. No, think about it. Kenneth Branagh, who did the first Thor movie, like he did creative stuff in the Thor movie.
Yeah.
Like he used Dutch angles for cinematography. Things like that. It's just Marvel was like, nah, bro, we need you to stick to this. Yeah,
they gotta get in line. They gotta get in line.
But like they really just got rid of. I mean, he's the one who really shaped out the MCU's plan with the Infinity, Stones and stuff. Like
so he says,
they really got rid of a good one. DC's in good hands. I thought Guardians 3 was a good send off for these characters. Wish maybe 2 of the main cast members at least died or one. There should have been an actual death of one of our main leads.
Why y'all want people to die so much?
Damn, man, that's some dark shit. You should be over on the DC side.
I just said one. I just said one. Look. We know for sure Star-Lord should have been dead for sure. Ain't no way he died. He died in space. He should have.
You got to remember he's a half like what? God or something
ain't
like that, right?
Ain't half Kree?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think he gave that up though. He gave that up after Volume 2. Like he was like immortal at times. What?
After he killed Ego, he lost those powers.
Did he? Oh,
who knows, bro? I don't even
goes to show how much I remember too. I only watched 2 one time. Only thing I remember was Yondu. You may have been your father, but you wasn't your daddy. That's the only thing I remember about part 2.
Dude, I'm sorry. Like everybody hates 2, but I disagree. Like
2 was dope.
I don't think 2 was like a masterclass, but there were some very good emotional beats, especially Yondu's death. Man, that still hits me when I watch that movie. Like
I don't hate it. It's just not very good. It's like a huge step down from Volume 1.
Well, 2, the reason why 2 got on my nerves is because every time they were on it to something really good or something epic, they'd ruin it with a corny ass joke. It's like we can't have a serious moment without dumbing it down by a stupid joke, and they did that throughout the entire movie, and it got on my nerves.
Straight up face.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, look, okay, it's okay to be serious for a few minutes without throwing a punchline in there. This ain't a stand-up routine, man. It's a movie. That was my biggest issue with 2.
All right, Anzo gotta go. No problem, bro.
Peace out, guys. Respect. I'll just say that I enjoyed the movie. I think it's better than the second one for 100%. I like the first one. Second one, not so much. Third one is really good. Hope we see more type of movies in the MCU. I think it's really needed, especially after Phase 4. But other than that, I really enjoyed the movie. It was nice being here, guys. Thanks for having me. Perp. Take care.
Yeah, no problem, bro.
Peace out.
Yeah,
Bro,
with
like
that being said, well, with
can I
that
just
being
say one more
go
thing?
ahead.
They
Go ahead.
need to do something me and PB have been lobbying for. If you're gonna do a fully goofy, like just nonsensical movie, Marvel, make the Trevor movie happen. I want to see my boy Trevor get justice, the best MCU character of all time, and his little companion from
Yeah.
Shang-Chi there.
What
No,
Trevor.
I
hey,
want?
that's what Disney Plus is for, bro.
Look, dude, I take a
what,
Disney Plus Trevor show.
what I want James Gunn to do, since Doom Patrol's over, I want him to just do a Doom Patrol and Suicide Squad crossover and Peacemaker. Like
Oh, that'd be sick.
that'd be dope. But yeah. With that being said, that's been pretty much the stream. Make sure you go follow everybody here on the panel. I appreciate everybody popping up. Um, next stream will probably most likely be the Flash because I feel like that's going to be an interesting one. That's definitely going to be an interesting movie for DC. And like I said, I appreciate everybody in the chat and stuff. I saw a lot of new faces, and you know what I'm saying. Yeah, so just stay tuned and subscribe to all these different channels here we got here, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.